I have a zombie assistance system. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Cockroach Bully. When the sound of wall smashing sounded again, the smile on the fat man's face froze. Impossible. How could he not be injured? Even if he was made of iron and steel, he would be injured after being hit. No, you must be holding on, right? He looked at the fat man and did not answer. The continuous sound of wall smashing and the gradually expanding hole in the wall were the best answer. After a while, most of the wall over there was destroyed. Of course, it was mainly due to the explosion. It would explode from time to time, and each time it would blow off a large piece of the wall. It just happened to confirm his speculation that it was indeed full of mechanisms. Imagine if she was accidentally hit by the fat man against the wall and the mechanism on it was directly triggered. She would be blown half to death. However, after the first lesson, Wang Qiushui would stop as quickly as possible after each hammering. So, even if the explosion continued, it actually did not hurt her at all. Looking at the half-destroyed wall, the fat man seemed to have given up. Please let me go. As long as you let me go, you can take everything here. I'll give it all to you. He shook his head. Compared to the things here, I want your life more. Besides, as long as you die, won't the things here still belong to us? The fat man narrowed his eyes, and a hint of fierceness shone through his eyes. So, there is no room for negotiation? He smiled and was too lazy to answer. If it weren't for Wang Qiushui's aura, which could only suppress the other party, so that he couldn't move, instead of driving him out, the fat man would have died long ago, so why bother to tear down the wall here? Seeing this, the fat man said viciously, tear it down hard, I'm here, waiting for your arrival. He glanced at the fat man, then walked to the side, picked up a large stone, and threw it directly in. The stone fell on the empty space in the room, and the next second the place exploded directly. Wang Qiushui saw this scene, and couldn't help but say, this fat guy is really insidious. He actually set up traps everywhere. However, if a fight really breaks out, he might get caught. Isn't he afraid? He thought for a moment, maybe he has special abilities after becoming a zombie? Just now when they were downstairs, those people were able to take out their transformation needles and become zombies. He didn't believe that this cautious fat guy would not leave a trick for himself. Moreover, this fat guy had not transformed. He was either showing weakness or waiting. As for what he was waiting for, he actually knew it very well, but he didn't care. At this time, Wang Qiushui asked in his mind, my physical strength seems to be running out. What should I do later? What if that fat man takes out a gun? Won't we all have to die here? He shook his head. Zillan transformed later than you, so she still has enough physical strength, and she hasn't shown up. The fat man must think that you are the invisible zombie. Besides, it's almost 12 o'clock now. After 12 o'clock, it will be a new day, and the physical strength medicine can be used again. Then I can give the fat man a surprise. Wang Qiushui was happy when he heard it. I really want to see the fat man's surprised expression. By the way, why don't you help me to cancel the transformation first? The feeling of exhaustion is too uncomfortable. He refused directly. Of course you have to do the whole show. This fat man is too smart. He won't be fooled if there is anything wrong. So, I have to inconvenience you. Wang Qiushui gritted his teeth. Okay, I'll go all out today. Not long after the two finished chatting, Wang Qiushui became exhausted and ended the transformation, and the whole person lay on the ground. He quickly helped Wang Qiushui up. Are you okay? Wang Qiushui collapsed in his arms. I'm so tired, I can't even stand. Seeing this, the fat man in the room was delighted and took out a transformation needle and stabbed himself. The color of the solution in his needle was darker than the one injected by Brother Wang and the others just now. It seems that the higher the concentration, the darker the color. Then, spikes began to appear on the fat man's hands and feet, just like the spikes on the feet of insects. At the same time, two things grew out of his body that I didn't know whether to call them hands or feet. He suddenly fell on the wall behind him and a pair of wings could be seen growing out of his back. However, they were not bat wings, but insect wings. A pair of very wide wings covered the fat man's entire body. After thinking about it, he put a pistol on the table into his belt. Then, he actually climbed onto the wall and crawled towards them from the wall. Wang Qiushui looked at the fat man who was crawling over, and her face became particularly ugly. "What is that? Don't tell me it's a cockroach. I'm most afraid of cockroaches." At this time, the fat man suddenly looked up at her. "You guessed it right, so I'll reward you to be my food later. It's so beautiful, it must be delicious." Wang Qiushui nervously grabbed his clothes and hid in his arms desperately. He patted Wang Qiushui and smiled. "Why are you standing there? Take a picture with your mobile phone, and then you can tell them that our cockroaches in the south are this big, and they can fly." Wang Qiushui looked up at him. Tears were about to flow out. "But I'm not from the south, I'm from the north." "And, you said he can fly?" He nodded, then shook his head. "I mean the cockroaches in the south can fly. As for him, he's so fat, it's not certain whether he can fly." After the words fell, the fat man's wings spread directly, glided to the two of them, and at the same time, pulled out the gun from his waist and pointed it at the two of them. Wang Qiushui was stunned when he saw this scene, and he shouted, "What a big cockroach. So disgusting." The fat man was a little proud at first, but his smile froze on his face when he heard this. Then he said, "It is said that villains die because they talk too much, but you two killed all my people and ruined the foundation I worked so hard to build. It is really difficult to vent my hatred by killing you." He looked at the fat man with a relaxed face. "That's right, you have been waiting for this moment for a long time. If you don't show off, it will be a shame for your previous performance." The fat man was surprised, and then he laughed triumphantly. "Even if you have seen through my plan a long time ago, what can you do? This is an open conspiracy. I have set up many traps in the room, and the location of the traps is not fixed. If you want to get in, you can only demolish the house. However, the time of the transformation needle is limited, so sooner or later you will turn back into humans, and at this time I can get rid of you without any effort." He reminded, "Don't you think that a transformation time is too long?" Chapter 227 Cockroach Zombie. The fat man's face changed when he heard this, and he found that he seemed to have missed the most important point. After all, normally, the time a person can turn into a zombie is limited, mostly just a few minutes. That is already the limit of a person. If you force yourself to maintain the transformation, it will only burn your vitality. The most obvious thing that can be seen from burning vitality is that a person's rapid aging is irreversible. However, Wang Qiushui in front of him did not show any signs of aging, which means that she did not burn her vitality. But why could she maintain the transformation for such a long time? The fat man did not want to explore the reasons. Even if he really wanted to explore, he had to wait until the other party died. So, he put his hand on the trigger and prepared to pull the trigger. At this time, there was a slight fluctuation in the airflow, bringing up a barely perceptible gust of wind. The fat man secretly said that it was not good and hurriedly stepped back while not forgetting to pull the trigger in his hand. However, everything was too late. The fat man's hand holding the gun was suddenly pierced by a sharp weapon and nailed directly to the wall. Only black liquid could be seen flowing out of the wound, but the specific weapon could not be seen. Because his arm was pierced, he had no strength to pull the trigger, and he didn't even have the strength to hold the gun, so the pistol fell directly to the ground. The fat man looked in front of him, and there was nothing there. He said in annoyance, "I didn't expect that it was someone else who was invisible. This time I made a mistake." Wang Qiushui stood far away at this time, still keeping a distance from the fat man. "Kill him, it's disgusting to look at." He picked up the pistol on the ground. "You didn't seize the opportunity given to you. You don't think that I really didn't see that you were just stalling for time." Qiushui looked at him. "Do you want to do it?" He shook his head. "Killing him like this would be too easy for him. I want to torture him bit by bit until he dies." After saying that, he looked at the fat man again. "By the way, it is said that cockroaches have very strong vitality. Even if their hands and feet are broken, they can grow new ones in 2 weeks. I wonder if you, a zombie, have inherited its ability?" The fat man glanced at him, suddenly pulled out a knife, and cut off his hand that was nailed to the wall with one knife. Then, he spread his wings and flew back to the house along the hole in the wall that Wang Qiushui had just smashed. He looked at Qiushui. "Why didn't you suppress him just now?" Qiushui said embarrassedly, "I can't." He was speechless, then raised the gun and pointed it at the fat man's head. Just as he was about to shoot, he suddenly felt a heavy pressure on his body, and then his body was pressed to one side, and the bullet he shot out was naturally tilted. The fat man seemed to have predicted the future, and his body tilted, and finally the bullet only hit his shoulder and did not blow his head off. Wang Qiushui was naturally affected as well, and looked at Qiushui beside him unhappily. "Are you on our side or his side?" Qiushui didn't know how to answer. She just wanted to use her breath to suppress the fat man, to prevent him from dodging, but who knew that she had hit the wrong target. He waved his hand. "Forget it, you just watch from the side. If you come a few more times, my small body can't take it." Qiushui nodded, and then said curiously, "In fact, the impact just now was not that big. There is no reason for him to dodge. And when I used the Dragon Slayer spear just now, he almost escaped." He speculated, this should be the characteristic of cockroaches. Cockroaches have alarms on their backs that can sense danger, and the fine hairs on their bodies can sense slight changes in airflow, so even if they can't see it, they can sense it first and respond. Wang Qiushui frowned when he heard it. "In that case, wouldn't it be very difficult to deal with?" He shook his head. "No, being too sensitive is not necessarily a good thing. Just like cockroaches encountering a vacuum cleaner, the alarms on their backs will tell them that there is danger ahead, so they will run backwards and then just rush into the suction mouth of the vacuum cleaner. So, we can use this to mislead Fatty. What's more, your level is higher than Fatty's, so you can just suppress them directly." At this time, Fatty suddenly opened the window and climbed out. But before he went out, he rubbed his butt against the windowsill. Qiushui was about to chase him when she saw this, but he stopped her. "Didn't you see that the fat guy had to climb the ceiling to get out, and didn't fly out until he was near the door? I guess there are traps not only on the ground, but also in the air. You'll be dead if you go in like this." Wang Qiushui frowned. "What was that fat guy rubbing against just now? That movement makes me sick." He was about to explain when he suddenly heard an explosion outside, as well as various rustling sounds, as if something was approaching here quickly. Qiushui and Wang Qiushui looked around warily at the same time and asked, "What is this?" He sighed. "If I'm not mistaken, it should be a cockroach." Wang Qiushui asked curiously, "Cockroaches? Aren't all the people here dead? How can so many people turn into cockroaches? Besides, even if there are so many people, there won't be enough transformation needles to share." He shook his head. "I'm not talking about human-shaped cockroaches like the fat man, but real cockroaches, or cockroach zombies." Wang Qiushui and the others felt their hearts skip a beat, and exclaimed at the same time, "What?" He explained, "Didn't you just ask the fat man what he was rubbing? If I'm not mistaken, he should be releasing pheromones. That kind of pheromone can play a role that you will understand, attracting other cockroaches. Now it seems that, after turning into a zombie, the effect of this pheromone has become even more powerful, and it can actually attract so many cockroaches." Wang Qiushui and the others looked even uglier when they heard this. When they thought that there would be densely packed cockroaches as big as humans, they didn't want to stay here any longer. Although those cockroaches are also a kind of zombies, they still look like cockroaches. They would rather face more humanoid zombies than these cockroaches. At this time, the fat man poked his head in from the window. "Boy, you know a lot. But even if you know more, it's meaningless, because you are dead. Don't think that you are the only ones with level 3, we have them too, and we have many other levels of zombies. Just wait to be eaten by us." The fat man only knew that Wang Qiushui was level 3, but he didn't know that Qiushui was also, because he had never felt Qiushui's breath directly. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with the fat man, so he raised his gun and shot, and crippled the fat man first. But the fat man seemed to be prepared. The moment he raised his gun, he disappeared outside the window, and then he ran away to an unknown place. Chapter 228 High-level cockroach. Listening to the rustling sound getting closer and closer, Wang Qiushui began to tremble and asked in a trembling voice, "What should we do next? I'm most afraid of cockroaches, and there are so many of them." He looked at Qiushui. "How are you? Are you okay?" Qiushui gritted her teeth. "I'm fine. I still have the strength to fight." He nodded. "Let's see what the situation is later. If there is only one level 3 cockroach, then it will be left to you. Qiushui will be responsible for suppressing those cockroaches, and I will be responsible for killing them. If there are 2 or more, then we will retreat first and let this fat man go." In fact, he didn't want to make such a decision. However, looking at Wang Qiushui's current appearance, it is obvious that he can't fight normally. Wang Qiushui responded, "If it's just suppression, I'm still fine." Qiushui nodded, "I'm fine too." As he spoke, a black shadow flashed quickly outside the window. The 3 of them looked over at the same time, but saw nothing outside the window. Wang Qiushui rubbed his eyes. "Was my eyes dazzled just now? I seemed to see something walking over." He shook his head, his muscles tensed, and his death sword was ready. "No, it should be the cockroaches that have arrived." Wang Qiushui was about to cry when he heard this. "With such a large body, why can they move so quickly?" he explained. "Cockroaches can move up to 50 times their body length per second. If converted into humans, it is equivalent to running 100 meters in 1 second, and the speed can reach 360 kilometers per hour, which is faster than a cheetah. Now it seems that after they become zombies, all their abilities are magnified proportionally, and the enlarged body size has not affected their original speed." Qiushui held the Dragon Slayer spear. "In this case, wouldn't it be difficult to attack them? Not only can they sense danger, but they can also sense their flow and grasp the direction in which we swing our weapons. Combined with this extreme speed, they can be said to be invincible." He nodded. "So, we can't go out. It's too open outside, which is more conducive to their performance. On the contrary, we are in the passage, which is relatively narrow, so they don't have much space to dodge. Moreover, there are so many traps here, enough for them to have a pot." As soon as he finished speaking, cockroaches the size of human beings began to crawl in from outside the window. They are different from the fat man. They are indeed cockroaches all over. They should be zombie cockroaches that have absorbed the zombie virus. When Wang Qiushui saw those cockroaches, his body began to tremble. There were too many cockroaches, and they soon filled the ceiling. The latter had no place to stay, so they had to crawl on the floor. Some of them started to bite the corpses on the ground directly, while others started to move forward. However, those cockroaches didn't take 2 steps before they touched the trap. With a boom, they were directly blown to pieces, and a big hole appeared on the floor. The other cockroaches sensed the fluctuations in the airflow and ran out one after another. Even though he had never been afraid of cockroaches, he was frightened by the sight of the giant cockroaches running around. It was so disgusting that his trypophobia was about to kick in. And Wang Qiushui was even more so. His body was shaking like a sieve. Qiushui was a little better than Wang Qiushui, but not much better. After a while, the cockroaches crawled back again. Perhaps they had learned from the lesson just now. They actually began to send out cockroaches one by one to explore the way in front, and the rest watched from behind. The cockroaches sent out to explore the way did not hesitate at all, and resolutely embarked on the road of no return. After a while, there was an explosion, and all the exploring cockroaches were killed. Then, a new batch of cockroaches were sent out. At the same time, cockroaches began to appear on both sides of the passage, also exploring the way. Wang Qiushui was surprised and said, "Are their IQs so high? They can even clear mines with their bodies." He shook his head. "Have you forgotten what the fat guy said just now? He said that there are level 3 zombies among these cockroaches. Low-level zombies naturally wouldn't think of doing this, let alone know how to test forward one by one. But level 3 zombies are different. They have such IQs and such abilities." Wang Qiushui looked at him. "Then what should we do? Just watch?" He nodded. "What else? You still want to stop them? Now we can only hope that more of them will die. Otherwise we will have to face a lot of cockroaches later. It's a pity. I don't know where the fat guy's arsenal is. Otherwise I can give them a few grenades to try." Seeing that he had no way, Wang Qiushui stopped asking and said, "It's really strange. We obviously haven't seen cockroaches before. Is the environment around here too dirty, so there are so many cockroaches?" He smiled bitterly. Cockroaches are social animals, so when you see a cockroach, there must be countless cockroaches behind it. And cockroaches are nocturnal animals. Now you know why I never go out to kill zombies at night. Wang Qiushui nodded in agreement. You are right. You should really stay at home at night and not run around. If we had known this, we would have come to rescue you tomorrow morning. While the two were talking, the cockroaches were getting closer and closer to them, almost coming to their side. At the same time, a huge cockroach squeezed in from the window, several times the size of the other cockroaches, and could be called a giant among cockroaches. Wang Qiushui's voice was trembling. I only knew that cats are liquid animals, but it turns out that cockroaches are also. With such a big body, they actually squeezed in. He turned on the scanner and took a look. The bodies of cockroaches can secrete oil, which makes it easier for them to get into various gaps, and their instinct is to hide in various narrow places. However, there is a good news that there is only one level 3 zombie here, so we don't have to run away. Moreover, this house is not very big, which is definitely a limitation for the huge cockroaches. Qiushui glanced at him. Do you really want to go? He asked. Is there any problem? If so, let's fight our way out now. However, when we are outside, the cockroaches can be used at full speed, and I'm worried that I can't outrun them. And once they follow us back, they may settle down there, which will become a huge hidden danger at that time. Wang Qiushui waved his hands repeatedly. No, I can't sleep when I think of such scary cockroaches running out at night. I might as well fight them here. Qiushui gritted her teeth. Then there is no other way. We can only go. Chapter 229 Refresh CD. At this time, the fat man crawled in from the window. Some ordinary cockroaches even made way for him. It seemed that he had completely integrated into the group. The fat man looked at him and Wang Qiushui, and then looked to the side. The one who can be invisible. If I were you, I would run away before I was exposed. Otherwise, you will be found by the big cockroach and you will be dead. These two people will definitely not be able to escape, so why should I get myself involved? As the saying goes, if a man does not work for himself, he will be punished by heaven and earth. Qiushui did not answer, but just sneered to show her attitude. He raised his gun and shot at the fat man. The fat man was well prepared. He quickly pulled a cockroach next to him to block him. With a bang, the cockroach was shot by a bullet before it could react to what happened, and black liquid flowed out. It only felt a tearing pain in its body, and its 6 legs shook wildly. The fat man threw the cockroach out, and at the same time stepped back and hid behind the giant cockroach. This made him give up the idea of continuing to shoot. There was no need to waste bullets. The cockroaches that were watching them suddenly all looked at the cockroach that was hit by the bullet. Their red eyes were so scary in this dim house. The cockroach was lying on its back on the ground, struggling frantically. It seemed to have thought of something bad, so it struggled hard to escape. The next second, the rest of the cockroaches rushed over together, as if they had agreed, and began to bite the cockroach that was shot. Because there were too many cockroaches, the specific scene inside could not be seen, but the cockroach was definitely not alive. Wang Qiushui curled his lips and said disdainfully, I thought they were social animals, so they wouldn't kill each other. I didn't expect them to treat their own kind the same as zombies. He shook his head and explained, this has nothing to do with whether they are social animals or not. In fact, even if they don't become zombies, they will still eat their own kind. One reason is to save food, which is a reuse of corpses. Another reason is that, if cockroaches die in their nests, it is likely to cause the spread of various viruses, and eventually lead to the destruction of the group, so they will get rid of the corpses first. This is also the reason why cockroach medicine can kill many cockroaches at a time. Wang Qiushui's eyes lit up. I don't know if cockroach medicine has any effect on them, but there is no cockroach medicine now, which is a pity. Otherwise, we don't have to do anything. We just need to take the cockroach medicine and keep spraying it. He nodded. You can try it when you have a chance. By the way, although I shot the cockroach just now, it is not that easy to die. Even if the stomach of a cockroach is stepped on, it can still survive for more than 20 days. The best way to kill them is to cut off their heads and destroy their central nervous system. Zilan, you must remember this, so as not to capsize later. Zilan nodded. I will pay attention. At this time, the cockroaches had dispersed again, and the shot cockroach lying on the ground was indeed nothing left, as if it had never appeared. The next second, the antennae of the giant cockroach trembled, and then one foot stretched forward and pointed at them. The cockroaches seemed to have received some instructions and began to rush towards them. The fat man showed half of his head from behind the giant cockroach and looked at them as if he was watching a good show. Wang Qiushui said angrily, "What are you looking at? Your transformation time is coming soon. You are surrounded by cockroaches now. When you turn back into a human, you will die more miserably than us." The fat man smiled proudly. "Before that, I only need to secrete a little pheromone and apply it on my body, and I will not be attacked by cockroaches. So you don't have to worry about me, but worry about yourselves." He laughed when he heard it. Applying pheromones on yourself is a wolf killer. You are really something to be alive until now. I would like to ask, what is the experience of being with cockroaches? Is it you who takes the initiative, or do they? Do you have offspring? Do they look like cockroaches or zombies? The fat man was so angry that his face turned red. He stretched out a trembling hand and pointed at them. You, I want you to die." Wang Qiushui and the others didn't understand what it meant at first, but they reacted after hearing the latter part. They both laughed, and their faces turned red again. Explosions sounded, and the cockroaches completely detonated the last trap and were about to come to them. He looked at the time. It's exactly 12 o'clock. Then he took out a transformation needle and a physical medicine and threw them to Wang Qiushui. Wang Qiushui swallowed the physical medicine in one gulp and then gave herself an injection. The fat man looked at the transformed Wang Qiushui with surprise. "What medicine did you take that you can transform so quickly? And what's wrong with your transformation needle? Why is the color so dark?" He smiled. "Why should we tell you?" Wang Qiushui moved her body, then picked up the hammer of the earth from the ground. "It feels so good to have this power back again." After saying that, she released her aura directly. The cockroaches that were already close at hand stopped one after another, and their bodies couldn't stop shaking. He made a direct move and beheaded the cockroaches in front of him. The deathless knife passed by, and the cockroaches were separated from their heads. Qiushui also made a move, and the dragon slayer spear stabbed the heads of those cockroaches, directly piercing their heads. The giant cockroach didn't expect that a level 3 zombie would suddenly appear and suppress its subordinates. So, it also exuded a breath and competed with Wang Qiushui's. Without Wang Qiushui's breath suppression, the cockroaches were able to move again. They dragged their dead companions to the back, and the rest walked forward again. The fat man looked at him with confidence, and for some reason he suddenly felt something was wrong. There were 3 people on the opposite side, and the 2 women had turned into zombies, but he had not changed. If all 3 of them changed, there would be 3 zombies. And if all 3 of them were level 3. Thinking of this, the fat man's legs trembled, and he turned around and wanted to leave. At this moment, Qiushui's breath burst out and suppressed the whole scene. It was over. She also looked at the 2 of them. "You didn't make a mistake this time." He shook his head. "No, just keep it like this." The fat man's tears were about to come out, and he just wanted to slap himself now. He shouldn't have come back just now. Just stay away and wait for them to finish fighting, then come back after seeing the situation. You can't run away now, even if you want to. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Fighting Cockroaches. The giant cockroach never thought that there was a level 3 zombie here. Its tentacles trembled quickly, as if it was thinking about whether to fight or flee. Seeing the giant cockroach like this, the fat man knew that it was bad. Once the giant cockroach was gone, he would only become a fish on the chopping board. He looked at the giant cockroach and cut off the head of the cockroach in front of him with a knife, while saying, "Heroes can't escape from the battlefield." Even if the giant cockroach wanted to run away, he would not agree. You know, that is a full 1000 experience points. How rare. However, if the other party walked out of this house, it would not be easy to deal with. He even considered whether to wear the title of 1000 Corpse Slayer and leave the giant cockroach behind. However, he was worried that he would become the target of the other party at that time, and there would be no place to hide in this narrow space. Besides, he didn't know the specific situation of this place. Logically speaking, it is impossible not to attract the attention of zombies in a place where so many humans gather. Perhaps all the traps on the road were not all for humans, but for zombies. Once he wore the title and attracted the level 3 zombies outside the scanner range, he would be trapped and unable to escape. At that time, it would be meaningless, even if he could kill the giant cockroach. In the end, he gave up the idea. However, while thinking, his hands did not stop. While killing the cockroaches in front of him, he stepped on their bodies and walked forward to kill the cockroaches behind him. Because the cockroaches were suppressed, whether they were level 1 or level 2, they could only stay in place motionless, watching the death knife chop off their heads. I don't know if it was his words or his actions that angered the giant cockroach. Instead of running away, the giant cockroach rushed towards him directly. Because there were still many cockroaches lying on the ground, the giant cockroach completely crushed them. However, although the cockroaches were crushed, they were still alive and even looked mentally in good condition. Without even looking at it, he swung his knife and chopped off another cockroach's head. Qiushui had already raised her gun and rushed forward the moment the giant cockroach rushed over. The Dragon Slayer spear stabbed the giant cockroach's head swiftly, ready to make its head explode. However, although the giant cockroach could not see Qiushui's position, it could feel the change in airflow caused by the swing of the Dragon Slayer spear, so it lay down first. The Dragon Slayer spear just passed over the giant cockroach's head, and the attack missed. Qiushui frowned. She never thought she would encounter such an opponent. It was even more difficult to deal with than the speed type zombies. The speed type zombies used their extreme speed to dodge. After thinking of ways to limit the opponent's movements, they could still hit it. This giant cockroach was like a prophet. It could predict the attack point before it made a move and decided whether to attack or dodge based on this. Therefore, in comparison, it was much more difficult to deal with. Wang Qiushui swung the hammer of the earth and was ready to go over to help, but after watching the giant cockroach for a long time, he still couldn't muster up the courage. Afterwards, she was ready to help harvest other low-level zombies, but she couldn't do it in the end. He looked at Wang Qiushui's embarrassed look and smiled. "You don't have to do anything, just watch from the side and leave these cockroaches to me. You just need to practice the use of breath while suppressing them." Wang Qiushui sighed. "It's all because they look too disgusting, otherwise I can kill people everywhere. Now I can only watch you do it, and I have become a burden." He smiled. "That's not the case. If you didn't suppress them, I wouldn't be able to kill them so easily." Wang Qiushui nodded and said seriously, "I will definitely suppress them well, and won't let any of them go." On the other side, Qiushui fired continuously, but failed to stab the opponent once. Every time, the giant cockroach dodged just right. If she hadn't known the opponent's ability in advance, she would have suspected that she was facing a martial arts master. Once again, Qiushui stabbed out with a gun, but was dodged by the giant cockroach again. At this time, her wrist trembled, and then pressed down. With a snap, the Dragon Slayer spear was directly pulled down by the force of her wrist and hit the giant cockroach. Then, the gun was quickly retracted. The giant cockroach was pressed directly to the ground by this pull, but in fact it did not suffer much damage. Qiushui frowned directly. Originally, she thought that this blow would at least cause some damage to the giant cockroach, if not seriously injured. However, at the moment of the pull, she found that, although the gun barrel exerted pressure on the giant cockroach's body, it was more like hitting a ball of cotton, and soon felt a rebound force. That's why she retracted the gun so quickly. The giant cockroach quickly climbed up again, and it was indeed fine. Then, it quickly crawled towards Qiushui, and with a swish, only a black shadow was left in the air. The next second, Qiushui blocked the giant cockroach with the gun in front of her, but still failed to block the giant cockroach's attack. The whole person flew backwards and hit the wall behind her. At this time, the giant cockroach showed up where Qiushui had just stood, and even put its foot into its mouth and bit it twice, as if it was licking it clean. The two looked at Qiushui at the same time, and Wang Qiushui asked, "How about I help you? It seems that this giant cockroach is really hard to deal with. If I'm not watching it, I should be able to do it." However, Qiushui was hit by the giant cockroach and became angry. The Dragon Slayer spear swung to the side, and the tip of the spear was almost tilted and inserted into the ground. "No, I must kill it today. I don't believe it. It's just a cockroach. How powerful can it be?" Wang Qiushui looked at Qiushui, who rushed out again, and then looked at him, and asked with his mouth, "What should we do?" He shrugged his shoulders, spread his hands, and replied with his mouth, "Let's see the situation first." At this time, Wang Qiushui's voice sounded in his mind, "Wait, can't you speak directly in this way? Why did you answer with your mouth just now?" He replied, "I was just cooperating with you, otherwise you would look so stupid." Wang Qiushui snorted, "Bah, you are stupid." After the words fell, Qiushui was knocked away again, and hit the wall. Wang Qiushui was about to step forward to help her up, but she rushed out again. Chapter 231 Qiushui is defeated. Wang Qiushui looked at him, and he shook his head, indicating that he was powerless. In fact, although the giant cockroach looked scary, it was not very aggressive. It had neither sharp claws nor sharp teeth. At most, it could attack with the spikes on its feet, or use high speed to hit. However, since the house was too small, and it could not be used, the effect of the collision was limited. Therefore, in his opinion, even if Qiushui failed to get rid of the other party, at least she would not be seriously injured. Moreover, looking at the current situation, Qiushui would definitely not accept help, so it would be better to watch quietly. Wang Qiushui saw that he had no way, so he stopped talking and watched silently, suppressing the cockroaches here, and trying to control his breath. He continued to kill cockroaches. There were too many cockroaches here. Even if he killed one with a knife, he still couldn't clear the place quickly. After being knocked away again, Qiushui threw away the dragon killing gun in his hand, and the next second he turned into a crab, and his hands turned into huge pincers. She looked at the giant cockroach and said, "You like to bump into things, don't you?" Then, she rushed towards the giant cockroach with two large pincers. Although the pincers were very heavy, they did not affect her short-term acceleration. At the moment of the encounter, she stepped forward, twisted her hips and turned sideways, and slammed into the giant cockroach with her right arm. At the same time, she also used the characteristics of instant burst and shouted, "Let me show you the authentic Iron Mountain backrest." Since her right arm is now the upper part of a large claw, it has become larger and harder. Coupled with the characteristics of instant burst, the impact caused is beyond words. With a bang, the giant cockroach flew backwards and hit the wall, shattering the glass windows and cracks on the wall. Even those who were in the house could feel the house shaking. Wang Qiushui looked at him. "Will the house collapse before we kill the giant cockroach? I don't want to be buried alive." He swallowed his saliva and said uncertainly, "It shouldn't be. So, you pay attention. If there is anything wrong, we will run quickly." Zilan is now covered with crab armor, plus the martial arts clothes. Even if it collapses, it won't crush her to death. Wang Qiushui nodded repeatedly. The giant cockroach quickly climbed up, and shook its head. It didn't seem to be hurt much. Just now, it was surprised by Qiushui's change, so it didn't have time to dodge, and it suffered such a loss. So, it looked up at Qiushui, and the red light in its eyes became more vigorous. The next second, it disappeared directly on the spot. Qiushui quickly raised her two pincers to protect her in front of her, and at the same time, her muscles were tense to deal with the next impact. However, at this time, she found that her skin was like a hard shell, giving her a great sense of security. It seems that, as long as there is no crack in the skin, it will not hurt the inside at all. With a bang, Qiushui was knocked back again. Wang Qiushui watched this scene and silently complained in his mind, "They are the ones doing the demolition, not me." He looked at the wall paint falling off, and the dense cracks behind Qiushui, and he agreed with it. The giant cockroach succeeded in one blow and then cleaned up its feet and tentacles, seeming to be very satisfied with the blow. Qiuslan moved her body. In fact, she was not hurt at all in the previous blow. Then, she rushed towards the giant cockroach again. However, this time she did not use the Iron Mountain leaning, but just rushed over. When she was about to reach the giant cockroach, she jumped high, swung her big claws violently, and smashed the giant cockroach's head. If this blow hit, it might be able to smash its head off. The giant cockroach did not hide and watched the big claws hit its head. Wang Qiushui opened his eyes wide. Could it be that this can be done? He turned his head to take a look, shook his head, and turned back to chop off the head of the cockroach in front of him. Sure enough, Qiuslan's big claws hit the giant cockroach's head and actually went through it. Because she used too much force, her body was a little unstable. That was the after image left by the giant cockroach moving quickly, so on the surface it looked like it was hit, but in fact the giant cockroach had already escaped to another place. Then, Qiuslan, who was unstable, flew backwards again, as if she was hit by something. And where she was originally, the figure of the giant cockroach appeared. Wang Qiushui looked at the giant cockroach with surprise and exclaimed, "What a fast speed." After Qiuslan stood up, she was about to rush over again. At this time, he reminded, it is actually a very stupid behavior to fight head on, especially when your attack and speed are not as good as the opponent. If you can hit 1 out of 10 punches, it is considered good luck. On the contrary, if it hits you 10 times, you will definitely hit 10 punches. In fact, this place is very narrow, which has greatly limited the opponent's speed, so you might as well consider it from this aspect. Hearing this, Qiuslan looked at the giant cockroach and began to think. The fat man in the room shouted, "Are you kidding me? It's obviously a one-on-one battle. Can you give hints? Is this still what a hero does?" He laughed out loud and looked at Wang Qiushui. "Are we heroes?" Wang Qiushui shook his head. He looked at the fat man again. "Don't say we are not heroes. Even if we are risking our lives now. Do you think we are fighting in a ring? Forget about giving hints. I can even go up to help in person. Come to think of it, if you hadn't spoken, I would have almost forgotten your existence. Just wait, I will treat you well later." The fat man suddenly stopped talking. For some reason, he felt that the giant cockroach was going to lose, and then it would be his turn. He didn't want to die here. At this time, Qiuslan said to herself, "I understand," and rushed towards the giant cockroach again. Wang Qiushui looked a little confused and looked at him again. "What do you understand? Why don't I understand anything?" After all, no matter how you look at it, Qiuslan's attack looked no different from before. She was ready to see Qiuslan being knocked back again. He smiled. "You'll understand in a moment. By the way, are you interested in this cockroach? If you are interested, let her live and see if she can be trained to level 4. Wang Qiushui looked at the giant cockroach, then at the fat man, and shook his head. "I don't want to become a human cockroach and disgust myself instead of my opponent." He nodded. "Forget it then." Chapter 232 Cockroach's Abilities. On the other side, Qiuslan ran into the giant cockroach again, and she still swung her claws and smashed it. And the same thing happened. The giant cockroach disappeared again, and then changed direction and hit Qiuslan. But this time, Qiuslan did not use her claws to resist, but directly opened her claws, like an open pair of scissors. The next second, the giant cockroach hit it, and Qiuslan flew backwards. At the same time, Qiuslan's claws suddenly closed, and she actually clamped the giant cockroach, and flew backwards with it. And her other pincers also clamped it, and this time the giant cockroach could no longer escape. With a bang, Qiuslan hit the wall, but she laughed at this time. "I finally caught you this time. I wonder if you have any ability to escape from my pincers?" The giant cockroach's head almost touched Qiuslan's face, and its big red eyes looked extremely terrifying. However, even though it was clamped by Qiuslan, it was still not afraid at all, and looked extremely calm. He took a look and quickly warned, "Be careful." Wang Qiushui and Qiuslan looked at him at the same time, not understanding what this meant. The giant cockroach had been caught, so how could it still make any waves? At this time, the giant cockroach was seen twisting its body frantically in the pliers. As it twisted, its body gradually began to break free from the pliers. Qiushui was shocked and quickly increased the strength of the pliers, almost using up all her strength. The part of the giant cockroach's body that was clamped was even flattened, and it looked almost as thin as paper. He shook his head. It's useless. Sure enough, even so, it couldn't stop the giant cockroach's movements. The next second, the giant cockroach broke free from Qiushui's pliers for the most part. Then, it swung its feet and chopped at Qiushui's head like a sharp blade. Qiushui quickly lowered her head and narrowly avoided the attack. However, the wall had been scratched by the giant cockroach's feet, leaving a deep crack, and there were even traces of thorns on the edge. Wang Qiushui, who was standing by, swung the hammer of the earth, hesitating whether to go over and help. After watching the cockroach for so long, she did feel that she could do it. However, when she looked at the giant cockroach up close, her hands began to tremble again. Why are there such disgusting creatures as cockroaches in this world, and such large mutant cockroaches? After dodging the attack of the giant cockroach, Qiushui kicked it in the stomach, successfully triggering a perfect attack, kicking it away, and interrupting the subsequent offensive. Then, Qiushui looked at him. What happened just now? I clearly clamped it, and I used all my strength. How could it break free? He explained. When it squeezed in through the window just now, didn't I say that? They like to hide in those gaps by nature. Because their bodies are flat, and they can secrete oil, they can squeeze into even the narrowest gaps. Therefore, although it looks like you clamped it, in fact, it is just a gap for it. Maybe it not only doesn't feel uncomfortable, but also feels very comfortable. Wang Qiushui, who was standing aside, was speechless when he heard this. Qiushui looked at the giant cockroach. Then this method won't work. He reminded, this is also a way to restrict the opponent, but you don't have to use this. After all, there are many abilities of crab transformation. It depends on how you use them. Qiushui thought about it, and rushed out again. The giant cockroach quickly climbed up, brushed off the dust on its body with its feet, and greeted it at the same time. However, just as the two were about to meet, the cockroach's red eyes flashed and suddenly disappeared. When it reappeared, it was already in another direction. Qiushui stopped and looked at the giant cockroach. Has it been discovered so soon? Wang Qiushui looked at him in confusion. What did you discover? Why can't I understand anything? At this time, a pop sound was heard in the field. Wang Qiushui frowned. Why does this sound a little familiar? He nodded. It's the sound of bubbles bursting. Wang Qiushui suddenly realized it turned out to be bubbles. That means the giant cockroach noticed the existence of the bubbles first, so it dodged at the critical moment. He nodded. Don't forget, cockroaches have the ability to sense danger, and can also sense changes in airflow. Although bubbles are small, they will still affect the airflow during the floating process, so it is not surprising that they are sensed by it. Wang Qiushui frowned. In that case, doesn't that mean bubbles are useless? The only thing left is the sand trap, but that requires her pincers to touch the ground, and the giant cockroach is so fast, isn't it even more impossible for it to be fooled? He smiled. Remember what I said just now about the cockroach being sucked into the vacuum cleaner? As the saying goes, cleverness can be a mistake. Sometimes being too sensitive can make you more likely to be misled. Wang Qiushui nodded, and then said as a matter of course, I still don't understand. He shook his head, and said nothing more. Let's see what Zilan will do first. Maybe she has a better way. In fact, what he said was not only to explain to Wang Qiushui, but more importantly to remind Qiushui. However, this was Qiushui's battle after all, and many things needed to be understood and mastered by Qiushui herself. Even if he told Qiushui what to do this time, what if she encountered a different situation next time? She couldn't wait for him to teach her every time. On the other side, the fat man had his back to them, because he wanted to escape just now. He quietly took out a transformation needle from his pocket, and gritted his teeth. No matter what, I can't die here. Then, he used all his strength to pierce the transformation needle into his body. Then, an unusual breath burst out from his body, and his body was temporarily free from Wang Qiushui's breath. He shook his head. Not enough. Then, he attacked the level 1 cockroach next to him, tore off the head of a cockroach with one hand, and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, he killed several level 1 cockroaches in succession. Under normal circumstances, he naturally couldn't do it. However, now those level 1 cockroaches were suppressed by Wang Qiushui's aura, and could not move at all, so they became fish on the chopping board, waiting for him to slaughter them. Wang Qiushui was thinking about the problem just now, and he didn't think that anyone could break free, so he didn't react for a while. Chapter 233. Only the fatty was being beaten. Just as Wang Qiushui was suppressing the fat man with her breath, a stronger breath appeared on the fat man. He looked up at the ceiling with his hands open. So this is the feeling of becoming stronger? This feeling is so good. Wang Qiushui's eyes condensed. She didn't expect that the fat man would upgrade at this critical moment, because she had been trying to control her breath before, and even subdivided it into different levels of cockroaches. Even though the fat man broke free, she still used the breath of suppression level 1 to suppress him. The next second, the fat man's body sank, but he was unable to completely stop his actions. He quickly ran to the window, and at the same time turned back, and said a cruel word. You made me become like this. I will definitely come back, to seek revenge on you. Wang Qiushui quickly increased the output of her breath, and the breath on her body surged towards the fat man like a huge wave. However, if she couldn't suppress it before the fat man ran out, everything would be meaningless. After all, her current breath can only be effective against opponents on the same level. He raised his gun and shot, but only hit the fat man's body, which slowed down the fat man's movements, but failed to stop him. At this moment, the giant cockroach that had been motionless suddenly disappeared from its original place. When it reappeared, it was blocking the fat man's body, and its legs swung out at the same time. The fat man was startled, and shrank his head to avoid the cockroach's legs, that were like sharp blades. But then, he was hit hard on the chest by the giant cockroach's head, and the whole person flew back. The fat man stretched out his hand, looked at the window, that was getting farther and farther away, and shouted, "No! That was not a window, but an escape route." The distant window foreshadowed the coming of death. At this time, he picked up the Dragon Slayer spear from the ground, and held it tightly in front of him with both hands. The next second, the fat man was just stuck on the Dragon Slayer spear, and the gun head pierced through his body. He directly inserted the tip of the Dragon Slayer spear into the wall, and the fat man's legs were hanging in the air, just like barbecue tied to the grill during barbecue. It's quite suitable. The fat man looked back at him unwillingly, and at the same time, his hands and those cockroach legs stretched out, as if he wanted to drag someone down with him. At this time, Wang Qiushui directly gave the fat man the highest treatment. The strongest aura of suppression in the audience made the fat man tremble all over. His eyes were about to burst, but he couldn't do anything. Be honest. Then, Wang Qiushui looked at him. This fat man is not honest at all. Why don't you kill him first, so as not to cause any more trouble later? He shook his head. That would be too easy for him. I will deal with him after I get this place done. Wang Qiushui couldn't help but feel strange. Did this fat man do something to you when we were not here? Why do I feel like there seems to be some deep hatred between you? He waved his hand, without saying anything in detail, and killed the cockroaches again. Wang Qiushui praised again. That shot you just made was quite accurate. You managed to hit the fatty in such a critical situation. He looked back at Wang Qiushui and said a little embarrassedly, "Actually, I wanted to shoot his feet to stop him from running, but I missed." Wang Qiushui was speechless. It turns out that a blind cat has caught a dead mouse. He looked helpless. What can I do? I have never used a gun before. It's good enough that I can hit him. Wang Qiushui nodded. That's right. Seeing that there was no way to take the blame, the fatty looked at the giant cockroach again and shouted unwillingly, "Why? Aren't we the same kind? Why are you trying to hurt me?" The giant cockroach glanced at the fatty, then turned to look at Qiushui, as if it was too lazy to pay attention to the fatty. He sneered, "Who told you to kill its subordinates? They ate each other only when they were injured. You killed several level 1 cockroaches directly. You are lucky that it didn't kill you directly. However, I was wondering how you leveled up. It turns out that you also leveled up by eating corpses. The situation was urgent at the time, so the fat man didn't have time to eat all the corpses, so he could only eat a few more cockroach heads. This is easy to understand. There may be a large amount of zombie virus in the cockroach heads, and the number is enough, so the fat man was able to level up. Moreover, with the fat man's strength, it is definitely impossible for him to hunt level 1 zombies so easily under normal circumstances. It's just that he picked up a loophole now. In fact, since he started the scan, he had already discovered that the fat man was the only level 1 person here. He originally wanted to wait until he finished dealing with the fat man before slowly asking him, but now he has saved this step. He looked at the tentacles growing on the fat man's head and the limbs that were transforming into cockroach legs, and smiled. It seems that the injection you just gave me is not completely without side effects. Although it allowed you to break free temporarily, I don't know if you can change back to your original appearance. The fat man glared at him fiercely, obviously not prepared to answer. He shook his head and sighed. No, judging from your big reaction just now, this process should be irreversible. That's why you said you would come back to seek revenge on us. But it's true, it's really miserable to become neither human nor cockroach. By the way, do you still have the transformation needle on you? I'll give you 2 more injections and see. Since you can't turn back into a human, it's not bad to be a cockroach completely. The fat man laughed and looked at him, as if he was a fool. Do you think that's some common thing? If I had enough transformation needles, would I have fallen to this point? Maybe, I would have been promoted to a higher level long ago, and then it would be you who would be strung on the wall, not me. He said oh, and then took out a row of transformation needles. Really? The fat man's eyes widened. Impossible. How could you have so many? You were sent by them to clean us up, right? It must be like this. Otherwise there is no way to explain clearly where you got so many transformation needles. You have to know how much material I sent to them, and I only got a few in return. He took out some needles from his pocket with his other hand. A lot. I have more. The fat man was stunned. No, who are you? Even if they are them, they can't let you carry so many transformation needles around. Not to mention whether they have the production capacity. Even if they do, if you die, all these transformation needles will be gone, and they can't afford such a big loss. He smiled. Don't worry about it. I just want to tell you that the things you think are precious are not worth mentioning to me. I can have as many as you want. Chapter 234 Don't bully my man. At this time, the fat man suddenly laughed. What's the use of more? The person who gave you this transformation needle must not have told you that this thing has many side effects. Like you can't control yourself and completely turn into a zombie, or your body gradually turns into a zombie, and in the end you don't even know what kind of existence you are. He nodded. So that's how it is. But what does this have to do with us? Wang Qiushui and the others used products produced by the system, which had already been explained that there were no side effects. What's more, the symptoms that the fat man said had never appeared in them. The fat man sneered. The transformation time for the 2 of them is almost up. Even if there is the pill that can replenish their physical strength, they still need injections to transform. The more times they transform, the higher the concentration of the zombie virus in their bodies, and the closer they are to the side effects I just mentioned. You are smart. You only injected them to and not yourself. Or were you sent to monitor them to and record the experimental data? He looked at Qiushui expressionlessly. Do I look like a gigolo? How come someone comes and thinks I'm a gigolo? Wang Qiushui chuckled. Yeah, it does look like one. He chopped off the head of the cockroach in front of him with a vicious knife. No, that won't do. I have to clear my name. I'm not a gigolo. Wang Qiushui nodded in agreement. Yes, you are also level 3. Otherwise, I'll tell Zilan and leave the giant cockroach to you. I don't think she will have any objection. He glanced at Qiushui who was struggling with the giant cockroach, then looked at her silently, and then blurted out, "It smells so good." Wang Qiushui laughed even louder. The fat man was puzzled and looked at Wang Qiushui. No, he hid behind and watched you take the transformation injection, turn into zombies, fight hard, and die. You are not angry? If it were me, I would kill him first. Wang Qiushui snorted coldly. He is handsome. I'm willing. So what? The fat man curled his lips and said disdainfully, even if he is like this, he can be described as handsome. With a bang, the fat man was hit directly by the hammer of the earth and hit the wall. The spider web-like cracks extended to all sides with a click. Wang Qiushui stretched his arm back. You are not allowed to scold my man. He silently took back the knife of life and death, so he didn't need to do it. On the other side, Qiushui was still struggling with the giant cockroach. She tried to use bubbles at the closest distance, but still failed. Even though she was lucky enough to trap it once, the bubble burst directly when it was pricked by the spikes on the cockroach's legs, and it disappeared instantly, avoiding the next attack. She tried to use sand traps, but it was also very sensitive to changes in the ground, and was not fooled at all. In the end, she had no choice but to fight hard. Wang Qiushui glanced over there and asked, don't you really need to help her? I think she seems to have no other way. He shook his head. If she really can't hold on, she will naturally ask us for help. Since she didn't ask, it means that she can still hold on now. Besides, her level has risen too fast, and she doesn't have much experience fighting zombies. In addition, she is not familiar with the series of skills of the crab. It's rare to meet an opponent who is equally matched and won't kill her instantly. Just take it as a chance to accumulate experience. Wang Qiushui breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, then I don't care. Then, she switched the hammer of the earth into the form of a long-handled soul-breaking sword. He asked curiously, what do you want to do? Wang Qiushui tilted his head and looked at the cockroach in front of him with the corner of his eyes, then stretched out his arm and held the soul-breaking sword to quickly chop off its head. There are so many cockroaches here, I don't know how long it will take for you to kill them slowly. Anyway, I'm idle anyway, so I might as well help you. He looked at Wang Qiushui's frightened look and couldn't help but feel funny and a little moved. But in the end, he just smiled at Wang Qiushui and said nothing. Anyway, everything was self-evident. The two turned into cockroach harvesters, harvesting cockroach heads one after another. And Qiushui finally stopped after another failed attack. Looking at the giant cockroach in front of her, she began to recall every word Wending had said just now. Finally, at a certain moment, her eyes lit up, and she looked at the giant cockroach, as if she was looking at a prey. Wang Qiushui felt the change in Qiushui's breath and couldn't help but let out a howl. He smiled. It seems that she seems to have figured it out. At this time, Qiushui rushed towards the giant cockroach again. However, this time her breath was different from before. She was no longer tentative and hesitant, but full of confidence. Every step seemed to be on the road to victory. Although the giant cockroach didn't know what happened, its keen perception told it that the opponent had become different. However, it did not turn around and run away. It would be stupid to expose its back to the opponent at this time. So, it disappeared again and crashed into Qiushui. Qiushui directly blocked her body with her big claws to resist this collision. At the same time, her small pincer stretched out towards the giant cockroach, trying to catch the other party. Moreover, her small mouth opened slightly, and a bubble came out and slowly floated towards the other party. The fine hairs on the giant cockroach stood up directly, obviously sensing the existence of the bubble. Its wings brush opened and prepared to fly away. If it was just now, it would not take a bubble seriously, and it could be broken with just a scratch. But now, it always feels that it will die if it hesitates a little. This is a very strange feeling. Qiushui would not let it run away. Her small pincers did not grab its body, but clamped its legs directly and pulled it up. The giant cockroach was dragged down and was pulled down just as it was about to take off. Suddenly, it exerted force on its legs and broke the clamped leg, thus getting rid of Qiushui's pincers. Qiushui did not seem to have thought of this either and stayed where she was with the cockroach's leg clamped. However, although it broke free from Qiushui's pincers, the bubble had already floated towards it, and it seemed that it could not escape. At this time, the giant cockroach stretched out its front legs, and the spikes on it poked the bubble. With a pop, the bubble shattered. The giant cockroach breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to run away. However, it suddenly found that a bubble on its front legs was growing rapidly, and soon it enveloped it. It turned out that the one just now was a bubble in a bubble. The bubble outside was only used to paralyze it, and the one inside was the real killer. Chapter 235 The Curse from the Cockroach. However, even if the giant cockroach was trapped in a bubble within a bubble, it could only be trapped for a while. As long as it waved its legs, it could easily pierce the bubble and get out. Obviously, Qiushui and the giant cockroach both understood this very well. So, when the giant cockroach raised its front legs again and paddled towards the bubble, Qiushui also followed suit, and her two pincers grabbed the two legs of the giant cockroach respectively. The giant cockroach had just paddled through the bubble and wanted to escape, but found that its two legs were caught. It was about to use the method just now to break its legs to survive. At this time, Qiushui grabbed the two legs and pulled them down. Because the giant cockroach was missing a leg, its body could not maintain complete balance. At this time, it was pulled and fell directly, and its plan to break its legs to survive was directly interrupted. Then, one of Qiushui's pincers let go of the cockroach's leg and turned to contact the ground. The sand trap opened, and the ground turned into sand. The giant cockroach, which lost its balance, just fell into the sand and began to sink into it. However, its wings opened in time, and its body was relatively large and light, so it did not sink into the sand. In fact, if it was given a little time, it might be able to break free. However, Qiushui obviously would not give it such a chance. She directly released the giant cockroach's claws, and then kicked the ground with her whole body, and her body instantly stood upside down. Since her other pincers were still in contact with the ground, the sandification was still turned on at this time. Then, she kicked the giant cockroach on the back with a handsome backward kick. The giant cockroach, which had just struggled out a little, was hit hard, and was kicked into the sand. Half of its body was submerged in it, and it seemed that it could not escape. Qiushui stood up straight, and the ground began to solidify, imprisoning the giant cockroach inside. However, since this place is always upstairs, not on the first floor, and connected to the earth, the giant cockroach is only imprisoned by the thickness of a floor. If it is given a little time, it may not be impossible to break free. At this time, Wang Qiushui stretched out his arm and handed over the soul-breaking knife. "You sit for now." Qiushui glanced at the dragon-slaying spear inserted in the wall, nodded, took the soul-breaking knife, and chopped off the giant cockroach's head with one knife. Without the head, the giant cockroach's legs trembled for a while, and finally stopped moving completely. With the death of the giant cockroach, the remaining cockroaches trembled one after another. At the same time, under the pressure of two level 3 zombies, it felt so uncomfortable. Qiushui did not return the soul-breaking knife, but said, "Let me do it." After that, she raised her hand and chopped off the head of a cockroach in front of her. Wang Qiushui naturally had no objection to this. If possible, she did not want to do it. After all, those cockroaches were too disgusting. Besides, her efficiency was far inferior to Qiushui's, and he naturally gained 1000 experience points, and also received a special reminder from the system. He couldn't help but feel strange. There had never been such a thing before. So, he clicked on the red message directly, and saw that it read, "Because the level 3 cockroach zombie cast a curse before it died, called the Revenge of the Cockroach Family. When the host appears outside the building when night falls, it will attract the revenge of the cockroaches in that nest, so please pay attention." He looked at Qiushui. "Don't kill them yet, they are still useful." Qiushui stopped and looked at him when she heard it, and Wang Qiushui also looked over. "What's wrong?" He didn't know how to explain this matter, and finally just said that it was his own feeling, and then he complained. "It is said that every grievance has its perpetrator. How come this curse has fallen on me?" After hearing this, Qiushui couldn't help but look at him. Wang Qiushui patted his shoulder. "We are one, so it's normal for you to bear this curse. Besides, you didn't do anything just now, and now you are just carrying a curse. It's not a big deal. The worst that can happen is that you don't go out at night in the future, right?" He sighed. "It seems that this is the only way for the time being. However, if something unexpected happens, and we have to go out, it will be a lot of fun. So, we have to get rid of it as soon as possible." Qiushui asked. Since they are a nest of cockroaches, it must be difficult to deal with them. Besides, we don't know what level they are. What if they are a bunch of level 3 ones? He shook his head. If it were a bunch of level 3 ones, there wouldn't be only this one level 3 that appeared just now. What I'm more worried about now is that the one that didn't appear is a female cockroach, and these cockroaches are all born by it, so its level is likely to be level 4 or even higher. Only in this way can it explain why the system would specifically use red to remind him. Wang Qiushui pondered for a while. If it's level 4, that would be perfect. Anyway, we are going to upgrade soon, so we can kill it and upgrade to level 4 at the same time. By the way, what did you mean when you said don't do it? Do you want to keep these cockroaches? He sighed. Well, remove their legs and wings and keep them alive for now. Their legs will grow out after a while. During this time, I'll see if I can upgrade some special cockroach medicine or something like that, and then kill them all. Qiushui suddenly realized what was going on. No wonder the giant cockroach didn't even want its legs just now. I thought it was so cruel. It turns out it has the ability to regenerate. He responded. That's right. So remove their legs now, apply medicine on them, and let them go back to wreak havoc on the entire nest, which can save us a lot of effort. Who knows, we don't even have to do it. Wang Qiushui clapped his hands. This is a good idea. By the way, now that the giant cockroach has been dealt with, can you tell me about your original method and see how it differs from Zilan's? Qiushui also looked at him. She was also very curious. He thought for a while. Zilan's method of bubbles in bubbles is quite good. My original idea was to spit out a lot of bubbles in advance, but they all floated in the air and did not move. As long as they did not move, there would be no airflow, and it would not attract its attention. Then, as long as Zilan attacked in front or spit out bubbles, it would definitely drive airflow. At this time, it would definitely think that there was danger in front, and would run to the back. In fact, the bubble formation in the back was already waiting for it. Later, it was similar to Zilan's method, and it still had to be trapped in the sand trap. Qiushui thought thoughtfully. It turns out that it was using its perception to mislead, but it's a pity that I didn't realize this. Chapter 236 Help them revenge. Then, they began to remove the legs of the cockroaches, and soon the ground was full of immobile cockroaches. He sighed. It's a pity that these cockroaches can't be eaten. Otherwise, they are good things rich in protein. Wang Qiushui looked at him with disdain. If you dare to eat this thing, stay away from me in the future. He looked at Wang Qiushui. Don't look down on it. Cockroaches are a kind of medicinal material. Later, it was made into a Chinese patent medicine. Maybe you have used it. It is called Kangfuxin liquid, which is used to treat oral ulcers and burns, etc., and can promote wound healing. The main ingredient is the ethanol extract of the dried body of the American cockroach, and the American cockroach is the common flying cockroach we see. What we killed just now should be this thing. Wang Qiushui patted his chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I haven't used this thing. Qiushui on the side vomited, attracting the attention of both of them. Wang Qiushui looked at Qiushui, then at him, then at Qiushui, and finally asked cautiously, "Are you pregnant?" He felt uncomfortable under Wang Qiushui's gaze. "She's pregnant. Why are you looking at me?" Wang Qiushui responded as a matter of course. "You're the only man. Who else should I look at if not you?" He was speechless and didn't know what to say. Others are happy to be a father, and he is happy to take the blame. Qiushui interrupted the two of them, covering her chest and saying with a look of discomfort, "I'm not pregnant, and it's not him who did it." Wang Qiushui asked hurriedly, "Then what happened? Could it be that you just got internal injuries? Do you have any healing medicine? If not, I still have some here." Qiushui waved her hands. "It's not an injury, it's that I had stomach problems before, and then the doctor prescribed me the Kangfuxin liquid, which worked quite well. It's just that I never paid attention to the ingredients on it until he mentioned it just now, and I just remembered it." After that, she started to dry heave again. He breathed a sigh of relief. "Fortunately, it's none of my business. I was scared to death just now." Wang Qiushui rolled her eyes at him. "Why is it none of your business? If it weren't for you, how would Zilan know that Kangfuxin liquid was made by cockroaches? If she didn't know, she wouldn't have vomited. He sighed and silently removed the cockroach legs in front of him. Okay, it's all my fault. After removing the cockroach legs, the ground was full of legless cockroaches. You can feel that they are still alive, but they can't move. It still looks a bit scary. Then, he took the juicer from Wang Qiushui and squeezed the dead cockroaches into juice. After finishing all this, he found a room and brought the fat man with broken hands and feet in. This was naturally done by Wang Qiushui. He didn't have the strength to do that. Wang Qiushui and the other person were guarding the door. Of course, since there are no zombies here now, they have already lifted their transformations. The fat man's hands and feet were broken. He lay on the ground, gasping for breath. If you are a man, just give me a quick death. Don't do those torture tricks. It's too low. He sneered, and the death knife rotated in his hand, emitting bursts of cold light. A man like you also wants to be killed? Do you think you deserve it? The fat man put his head on the ground and tried to prop up his body stubbornly but couldn't. Then he kept twisting his waist, as if he wanted to retreat. As long as you give me a quick death, I will give you everything I have. I have hidden a lot of things, hidden in places where no one knows. Anyway, I look like 3 parts human and 7 parts cockroach now. There is no point in living. I just ask you to give me a quick death. He shook his head, raised his head slightly and recalled, what were you doing when we met just now? You were eating hot pot, right? Also, I heard that you like to eat sashimi recently. However, I'm sure that the sashimi you eat is not cut thin enough. Why? Because the knife is not good enough. It just so happens that my knife is a scalpel, and I can make it as thin as you want. Come to think of it, I have never seen what meat as thin as a cicada's wing looks like. Today I have a chance to see it. The fat man's eyes widened instantly, and he shouted quickly, no, don't come over here. Ah. He cut open the fat man's pants. Let's start from here, and it can be regarded as revenge for that girl. It's a pity that there are no ghosts in this world. Otherwise, I think she would be happy to do it herself. The 2 people outside the door listened to the screams inside and swallowed their saliva. The screams were indeed a bit miserable and terrifying. Qiushui asked, if you don't go in and keep an eye on him, what if he gets possessed again like before? Wang Qiushui shook her head. If he gets possessed again, just wake him up. Besides, there's only him and the fat man inside. Even if he really gets possessed, it's just the fat man's bad luck, and it won't harm other people. Just let him vent. Qiushui nodded after hearing this, hesitated for a while, and then asked, but isn't it inhumane for us to do this? Maybe it's better to kill the fat man with one knife. Wang Qiushui glanced at her unhappily. Humanity, that's for people, not for zombies. Even if the fat man didn't turn into a zombie, the pile of corpses in the room just now can't be called human. Besides, you talked about humanity with the fat man. Has the fat man talked about humanity with those dead people? Qiushui sighed and didn't say anything else. It was the first time she encountered such a scene, so it was inevitable that she felt it was too cruel. But after hearing what Wang Qiushui said, she found that she was indeed too saintly. The screams in the room sounded every few seconds. In the end, the sound became hoarse, but it still did not stop. Later, the fat man's consciousness became blurred, and it seemed that he could not even feel the pain of cutting flesh. And he would naturally not let the fat man get away with it, so he directly exchanged the healing medicine and fed it to the fat man. After taking the healing medicine, the fat man's wounds healed quickly. However, the healing medicine is only used for healing after all, not the kind of magic medicine that can regenerate muscles, so the part that has been cut off cannot grow back. He nodded, which can be regarded as a small experiment. After the fat man was a little more energetic, he started again. After a while, the physical medicine could no longer be fed, and the effect was not very good. So, he directly gave the fat man a transformation injection. Let you taste this high-end stuff. What you have injected is all rubbish. After the injection, the fat man breathed again, but it seemed that the degree of zombieization became deeper. But he didn't care about it at all, and continued to fight. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Broth. After an unknown amount of time, the fat man had turned into a pile of bones, and on the ground there was a pile of meat and a pile of black liquid that could barely be called a mountain. And the fat man, needless to say, was dead, contributing 100 points of contribution. He shook his head and shook off the black liquid on the deathless knife. It was too easy for him to die. Then, he walked out. But when he opened the door, he only opened a gap that was just big enough for people to pass through and walked out without letting the two of them see what was inside. He didn't want them to see it, nor did he want them to know the specific reasons. Let him bear these things alone. This is also the reason why he dealt with the fat man alone and didn't let them get involved. When the two heard the door open, they looked over and saw that he looked normal, and they were relieved. Wang Qiushui asked, "Did you get it done?" He nodded, "Yeah." Qiushui pointed to the group of people in front of him with their heads down. They seemed to be the ones who were locked in the basement just now. She couldn't say that she had any bad feelings towards these people, but she definitely didn't have any good feelings towards them. These people couldn't even save themselves. They only ran out after they were sure that the fat man and the others were all dead. They were far from normal survivors. He looked over and asked, "What's the matter?" When those people heard his voice, their bodies trembled. They heard the voices inside clearly. Although they didn't know much about who the fat man was, they knew a general idea from the guards. Such a cruel fat man ended up being unable to live or die, and he kept screaming for so long before he died. This is enough to show the means of this man in front of him. At this time, the leading man knelt down directly. The group of people behind him quickly knelt down, and a large group of them knelt down. The man continued, "Actually, we want to thank the heroes for saving our lives. Without you, we would not be able to survive, and we don't know what would happen to us in the end." He waved his hand and said impatiently, "No need to waste time. If you need anything here, just take it away. But one thing is, you can take cold weapons like knives, if you need them, but don't touch any hot weapons like guns. If I find out, don't blame me for being rude. Also, the traps on the way here should have been detonated. Be careful and you should be able to leave safely." Hearing his warning, everyone's body trembled again, remembering the end of the fat man just now. The leading man reacted very quickly and kowtowed directly. Thank you, you are all good people. We will never forget your kindness today. If we have the chance in the future, we will definitely repay you." He waved his hand. Let's go. Those people lowered their heads and retreated step by step. After walking a distance, they turned around. However, from the happy expressions on their faces, it was obvious that they did not expect to have such a big harvest. Originally, they thought it was good enough to save their lives, but who knew that now they could move everything in the whole place at will, and they could have no worries about food and drink. Wang Qiushui looked at their movements and wondered, why are they walking backwards? He sneered, "This is how ministers used to meet the emperor. If the ministers turned their backs to the emperor, it would be hard to defend against if they got some hidden weapons. So, there was such a rule. They did this just now, probably to show that they are not a threat to us." Wang Qiushui said disdainfully, "TSK, so boring. But why are you so generous this time? You actually gave all the things away." He sighed, "I'm just too lazy to talk nonsense with them. These people are really the kind of people who waste food. They have no desire to survive and won't live long in this doomsday. Besides, we have things to do tomorrow, and it's not convenient to carry so many things." Qiushui asked at this time, "Why do you have so many guns?" He responded, "First, the power of hot weapons is indeed great. We may be able to use them to kill cockroaches next time. However, this thing is too troublesome to maintain. After all, we are not professionals, so we will probably throw it away after using it this time. Secondly, don't forget that we are still mortals and can't stop bullets. I don't want these guns to fall into their hands and be used against us." Qiushui frowned. "They shouldn't do that." He sneered, "No? You still think too well of people. Guns are powerful weapons, and when people have the power of life and death, they will naturally become arrogant and ignore other people. Once they have guns, they may force us to hand over resources such as food. This is very likely to happen. Of course, I'm just trying to prevent such a thing from happening. I don't want to let others decide my life and death. Qiushui nodded when he heard it. At this time, he walked downstairs. Wang Qiushui hurriedly followed him. Where are you going? He replied without turning his head, to the kitchen. Wang Qiushui touched his stomach. It just so happens that I have been fighting for so long, and my stomach is also hungry. It's just right to have a midnight snack now. He shook his head. I'm not going to have a midnight snack. Qiushui felt strange, but followed him. Walking into the kitchen, a big pot was placed on the stove. The flame was still burning, and there was a pot of boiling broth in the pot, but it was not clear what kind of meat it was. The broth was boiling, steaming out, and it also brought bursts of fragrance. Wang Qiushui took off his mask early in the morning, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. It smells so good. I smell the aroma of meat. No, I can't stand it. I haven't eaten fresh meat for a long time. Qiushui's nose twitched, and her throat couldn't help swallowing saliva, obviously also tempted by the smell of meat. He looked at the two of them. This broth is not drinkable. You should go out first. Wang Qiushui looked at him alertly. You want to eat alone? That's really not nice. Although you've been hungry for a day, you can't finish all this by yourself. He looked at Wang Qiushui expressionlessly. I said I don't want to eat it, and you are not allowed to eat it either. Wang Qiushui was puzzled. Why? What happened to you today? Since you came here, you have changed completely. Are you hiding a lot of things from me? Although Qiushui didn't say anything, she nodded in agreement. At this time, many people appeared outside the kitchen, and it seemed that they were also attracted by the smell of meat. Chapter 238 Diary of a Madman. However, after seeing the three people in the kitchen, those people stood far away at the kitchen door and did not dare to come in. He glanced at those people and then looked at Wang Qiushui and the others. He picked up a spoon from the side, scooped a spoonful of soup, and then pulled it up a little higher and poured it back. After he stirred it like this, the aroma of the broth became stronger and went straight into people's noses. Everyone present, except him, swallowed their saliva. At this time, Wang Qiushui's stubborn temper also came up. If you don't explain clearly today, I will have to drink this broth. She was worried to death all day. She finally rescued him, but he was still hiding various things from her. She was angry just thinking about it. He looked back at Wang Qiushui, then put the spoon into the pot and stirred it, sighing. You said, this is the end of the world. Living people have become zombies, and dogs, fish, and even cockroaches have become zombies. Where does this fresh meat, that has not mutated, come from? Wang Qiushui was so angry that he replied unhappily. Maybe there is a farm somewhere, and the animals in it have not mutated. Qiushui's consciousness was sober. Looking at the big pot of broth, she remembered the hot pot that the fat man had just made, the corpses with meat dug out on the ground, and his abnormal reaction. For some reason, she felt a bad feeling in her heart. When she looked at the broth, she no longer felt delicious, but nauseous and wanted to vomit. He shook his head. You know how low the probability is. People have nothing to eat, let alone animals, that can still survive until now. Wang Qiushui didn't say anything either. She remembered that she had discussed this issue before. At this time, his spoon stopped for a while, as if it had touched something. He directly scooped it out with the spoon, and scooped out a big bone. When Qiushui saw the big bone, she couldn't help it and rushed out, retching outside the door. Wang Qiushui's face didn't look good either, and asked, why did Zilan vomit again? Is there something wrong with the bone? He looked at Wang Qiushui's thigh. Don't you think that the length of this big bone is about the same as your thigh? Wang Qiushui's face suddenly changed. She looked at the big bone, and then looked at her thigh. Thinking of her vow to drink the broth just now, she couldn't help but rush out. The two of them retched outside the door together. At this time, they finally knew why he didn't let them drink it, and didn't tell them what it was. It was so disgusting that they felt that they couldn't look at meat and soup, or even the word broth, in the future. He glanced at the group of people who were still outside, grabbed the handle of the big pot, took the pot out, and then poured the whole pot of soup on the ground. The meat and milky soup in the pot all poured onto the ground, along with the internal organs and bones, including thigh bones, calf bones, and even the skull. Putting them together, they could form a person. The onlookers were startled, but they were just frightened by his actions and thought he was going to pour the soup on them. Then, they looked at the meat on the ground and swallowed unconsciously. His brows furrowed. At this time, a man ran out from the side, who was the leader just now. He kicked one of them, and shouted to the others, "What are you looking at? You are all lazy here, right? Go back and move things for me." Those people seemed to be very afraid of the man in the lead, and left one after another. However, when they left, they were still glancing at the meat on the ground from the corner of their eyes. He walked over, and patted Wang Qiushui and the other man on the back. "How are you? Do you feel better?" Wang Qiushui frowned and looked at him, saliva still on the corner of his mouth. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I'm about to vomit out all the gastric juice." He wiped the saliva from Wang Qiushui's mouth with his fingers. "I was just guessing at the beginning, and I couldn't be sure before I saw it. Besides, I reminded you at the beginning, but you didn't listen. Even if I said there was a person in the pot, would you believe it before you saw it?" Qiushui paused and asked, "How did you know?" He sighed. "I was taken to meet the fat man in the morning. At that time, there was a half-dressed girl lying on the ground in the room. When we went in, the girl jumped directly from the upstairs. Then, the fat man said that there would be more dishes in the evening. In addition to the corpses in the fat man's room just now, I thought of coming to take a look." Wang Qiushui looked at him with horror. "So, the fat man just made hot pot?" He nodded. "So, that's why I said at that time that you didn't want to know where the meat came from." Wang Qiushui vomited again after hearing this. Qiushui said angrily, "It was too easy for him to die just now. We should have kept him alive and tortured him every day until he died. This would be worthy of those who died." He sighed, said nothing, and patted the two on the back silently. At this time, Qiushui said again, "Since there is such a big pot here, that means..." He nodded. "Well, everyone here should have a share." Moreover, when the fat man said it this morning, Gizzy was still happy. "I guess they have done this kind of thing a lot." Qiushui gritted her teeth and said, "It's really easy for them. They died so easily." When the two had almost vomited, he directly loaded all the hot weapons into the car, and then drove away with the two. Wang Qiushui asked in confusion, "It's still dark, and you ran out directly. Aren't you afraid that the curse of the cockroach will take effect?" He nodded. "Of course I'm afraid. In fact, from the moment I stepped out of the door, I felt that the curse took effect. However, there is a more important thing waiting for me to do now." Qiushui asked curiously, "What is it?" He shook his head. "You are not suitable to be present for this matter. After I park the car, you can drive back first. Zillion is still waiting for you. By the way, you can drive, right?" Qiushui nodded when she heard it. At the corner, he and Wang Qiushui got out of the car, and then Wang Qiushui transformed directly and took him back to a building near the house just now. The location they chose happened to be able to see the previous kitchen. Wang Qiushui glanced at the kitchen, and then looked at him again. "You are so mysterious. What exactly do you want to do? And you even want to get Zillion away? This time, if you can't explain it clearly, I will really be angry." He thought for a while and explained, "When those people left just now, they all stared at my meat on the ground." Chapter 239 Massacre. Wang Qiushui was stunned. After a long while, he turned around and looked at him in horror. "What do you mean?" He nodded and sighed. "I hope it's not what I think." The two of them lay there quietly and watched, and no one said anything. After a while, people began to move around the kitchen. After a while, there were more and more people, until a certain time, the leading man appeared in the kitchen, and everyone looked at the leading man. The man glanced at everyone, and said in a deep voice, "We haven't eaten for too long, and our bodies are too weak, so we need to supplement our nutrition. Moreover, in the end times, food is very precious, and should not be wasted." When everyone heard this, their faces lit up, and they couldn't stop swallowing their saliva. The man said again, So, no one is allowed to tell anyone about what we did today, otherwise, they will be our enemies. Everyone shouted together, they are our enemies. The man waved his hand. These are already cooked on the ground, just pick them up and wash them, and you can eat them. In addition, if a few more people go, there are still many corpses upstairs, don't waste them. After that, some people went upstairs to pick up the pieces of meat on the ground, and some people ran upstairs directly. Wang Qiushui was about to vomit when he saw this scene, and was ready to rush out. I can't stand it, kill them all. He held Wang Qiushui. Wait a minute, to catch a thief, you must seize the stolen goods. What if they don't admit it? Wouldn't it seem that we are killing innocent people? Besides, if someone didn't participate and was killed by us by mistake, wouldn't it be very unfair? Wang Qiushui hesitated for a moment, turned around, then call me, I can't stand it anyway. He nodded and continued to watch. After a while, he said to Wang Qiushui, let's go, it's our turn. Wang Qiushui frowned. I really regret seeing this scene. I should have burned this place down with fire. It's simply hell on earth. He sighed. I'll do it in a while, you wait by the side. Wang Qiushui nodded, stretched out his arm, and took him upstairs to the kitchen. Those people were holding bowls in their hands, and when they saw the two of them appear, they were all stunned, looking at a loss. Wang Qiushui snorted coldly, and turned her back. Just seeing those people made her feel sick. The leading man reacted quickly, gestured for them to put down the bowls in their hands, and then stepped forward, smiling. Why are the two heroes back again? Did you miss something? If you missed something, we can help you find it. The others nodded one after another, looking enthusiastic. He shook his head and asked softly, what are you eating? The leading man's heart skipped a beat, and after thinking for a while, he answered, we haven't eaten for many days. We just found a piece of meat in the kitchen, so we cooked a big pot. Let's drink some soup first to replenish our energy. He nodded. Oh, so that's how it is. The leading man secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, that's it. By the way, I wonder what you two are doing back. He looked at the man expressionlessly. I'm back to kill you. The leading man forced a smile. The hero is joking. He stepped forward and waved his hand gently. I never joke. The leading man opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but found that blood began to flow from his mouth. Then, with a thump, a headless body fell to the ground. Everyone's faces were horrified. They didn't expect that he was really back to kill people. Someone immediately ran back. He shook his head and whispered, Qiushui. Wang Qiushui turned around and swung out with his extended arm. After a while, the heads of the fleeing people were smashed and exploded, and they were deader than dead. Seeing this death, someone immediately knelt down. I didn't want to eat it, but they forced me to. If I didn't eat it, I might be the next one in the pot. He didn't say anything, walked past the man, and cut the knife down. Someone else said, we are just recycling waste, what's wrong with that? Anyway, even if we don't eat it, it will rot in the end, or be eaten by insects. Another person fell down. He came back just to kill us. It's useless to beg for mercy, just pick up the weapon and fight him. After a burst of fighting, there were only corpses on the ground, and he was unharmed. The rest, whether they fought or fled, or were too scared to move, could not escape his knife. Finally, he came in front of a mother and son. The mother looked at him and begged, this matter has nothing to do with my son. He is still young, and doesn't understand anything. Besides, I forced it on him just now. Please let him go. I'll kneel down for you. After saying that, she bent her knees and prepared to kneel down. He looked at the mother and finally shook her head. The mother pushed the boy away and said, go. At the same time, she hugged his legs. The boy staggered a few steps and fell to the ground, but did not leave. He looked at his mother who was hugging him tightly, sighed, and finally waved his hand. Then, he walked towards the boy step by step. The boy did not look afraid, but looked at him with a hateful look, as if he wanted to eat him alive. He waved his hand expressionlessly, and the deathless knife slashed towards the boy's throat. But when it was about to hit, there was a ding sound. He sighed, you shouldn't have come back. Wang Qiushui also heard the sound, and was afraid that something unexpected would happen, So he hurried over, but saw that the deathless knife was blocked by something, but he could not see anything. The next second, Qiushui appeared on the side, and it was the Dragon Slayer spear that blocked the death sword. The child is innocent, and you have already killed his mother. There is no need to kill them all. He glanced at Qiushui. Haven't you heard of cutting the grass at its roots? I have already killed his mother. If I let him go like this, wouldn't it be like letting a tiger go back to the mountain? If one day I fall into his hands, do you think he will let me go? Qiushui shook her head. You are much stronger than him, so that day will never come. He pursed his lips. What if I insist on killing him? Qiushui tightened the Dragon Slayer spear. I won't let you do that. At this moment, the boy didn't know what he thought of, and suddenly ran out. He glanced at Qiushui, then waved his hand, and a cold light shot out. With a thump, the boy's body fell directly to the ground. Chapter 240, Eliminating the Roots. He walked towards the corpse step by step, and then pulled out the life-destroying knife. Qiushui was so angry that her body was shaking, and she pointed the dragon-slaying spear at him. You are just an executioner. He turned around and looked at Qiushui and replied expressionlessly, I killed those who deserve to be killed. Qiushui said angrily, why should you decide whether to kill or not? Do you think you are a judge? Just that boy, why did you kill him? He shook off the blood on the life-destroying knife with a light flick and then put the knife away. In the countryside, sometimes those dogs will revert to their ancestors. We all know that dogs are domesticated from wolves. So, what is reversion? It means that those dogs, when they are very young, will hunt prey, such as domestic chickens and ducks. Qiushui still looked at him angrily, and was a little confused, as if she didn't understand what he meant by this. He went on to say, these dogs can never be raised up, because if they are raised up, they will not kill chickens or ducklings, but people. After all, a local dog weighs 20 to 30 kilograms. If it really bites someone, it is no joke. So in order to solve this problem, once such a puppy appears, people will kill it directly to prevent future troubles. Wang Qiushui looked at him thoughtfully. He sighed. This is the end of the world, and it is a world of cannibalism. In the past, there were cases of cannibalism during famine or war. However, this is not a reason for them to do this. We didn't take anything away. There is still a lot of food here, but they chose the most inappropriate things to eat, so they all have to die. Otherwise, when there is no food in the future, they will attack their own kind again. Even when they want to eat meat, they will do this. At that time, those who died because of this should not ask you for an explanation. Qiushui hesitated for a moment, and then said, what about the boy? I was watching the whole time. He didn't want to eat at first, but his mother forced it on him. Is that wrong? He sneered. You can't force a cow to drink water if it doesn't want to. If it eats, it eats. Why bother to say whether you like it or not? Besides, this kind of thing will happen again after the first time. Normal people like you two would vomit directly after knowing what it is. But he obviously knew what it was, but he still ate it, so his death was not unjust. The most important thing is, don't forget that we are one, and he is shown in red on the scanner. So, if he really comes back for revenge, the target must include you. It doesn't matter if you want to die, but please think about your sister Zillion before making any decision. When the deathless sword was blocked, he also guessed that it was Qiushui. But for safety reasons, he still turned on the scanner and then saw the boy's red color displayed in the scanner. However, this is normal. He killed the boy's mother, so it's not strange to become an enemy. Because of this, he would not let the boy go. It is better to cut the grass and root it out. Qiushui held the Dragon Slayer spear. Her eyes flickered, and I don't know what she was thinking, but she didn't say anything else. He looked at Qiushui again and sighed. I had guessed that you would do this, so I sent you away at the beginning. Who knew you would come back on your own? I think our ideas are indeed not in line with each other. As the saying goes, people with different ideals cannot work together. You. Wang Qiushui interrupted him directly. Shut up. He shut up immediately after hearing this and walked aside to pack up his things. Now that all these people are dead, naturally no one wants their things, so he plans to take back everything that can be taken away and used. Wang Qiushui directly pulled Qiushui aside. I'm not speaking for him, but since I met him, he has indeed not killed innocent people indiscriminately. At least, he killed people he thought deserved to die. Moreover, what he said just now is not wrong. We know what this group of people have done, so we strangled them in the cradle in advance. What if they meet other survivors who are unaware of it after they go out? In the end, will those survivors become meat in their pot? From this perspective, I don't think he did anything wrong. Qiushui glanced at her and did not respond. Wang Qiushui went on, as for the boy, it's not that he didn't give them a chance. Qiushui sneered, I was watching from the side. I only saw him kill a mother and then kill her son, but I didn't see him give them a chance. Wang Qiushui sighed, we were watching upstairs, and at the beginning, when those people hadn't started eating, but were just taking some action, I suggested taking action. At the time, he said that to catch a thief, you have to seize the stolen goods, and if someone didn't eat, it would be killing innocent people. So, the choice was in the hands of those people at the time. If they didn't eat, he wouldn't kill them. Qiushui shook her head and disagreed. What's the difference between this and fishing enforcement? Besides, in such an environment, if you don't eat, can you really walk out of this door? Wang Qiushui looked up at the sky. The stars above were twinkling. The difference is that the decision is always in their hands. They can choose to eat or not. We didn't induce them to eat. Besides, the meat fell to the ground, and they picked it up by themselves. As for whether you can go out if you don't eat it, I don't know. But what I know is that when we both knew the truth, we vomited directly, and they didn't react at all, and even looked at the meat on the ground reluctantly, so their death was not unjust at all. Qiushui didn't say anything after hearing this. Wang Qiushui patted Qiushui on the shoulder. As for what he said, you don't have to take it to heart. He is just like this, a bit chauvinistic. However, if you really don't want to go with us, it's up to you. After all, we may have to go to the survivor base in the future, and it is estimated that many people will die by then. Finally, I advise you that this end of the world is no longer the end of the world in the past. It is a real world where the strong prey on the weak and people eat each other. After saying that, Wang Qiushui went back to help pack up. Qiushui looked up at the sky. The strong prey on the weak. It seems that I have never been able to integrate into this world. I'm still living by the old rules. If I hadn't been lucky, I wouldn't be alive today. In the end, I would just be a piece of meat in the mouth of the strong. Some things should probably be changed. Chapter 241 Watching the Stars. The two were busy for a long time before loading the things into the truck. They had to load several trucks. It was estimated that they had to run back and forth several times. However, for safety reasons, they did not drive back in the dark. He was worried that, if he ran out again, he would really attract those cockroaches. Wang Qiushui had developed a deep fear of these nocturnal creatures, fearing that there were other things besides cockroaches, so he did not dare to go out. He wiped the two chairs clean, then sat on the chair, and ate the bread that he had just searched out. It must be said that there is strength in numbers. With so many people, there are naturally more resources that can be collected, and there is naturally a lot of food. Otherwise it would not be possible to feed so many people. Of course, in addition to the collected materials, there may also be materials sent from the survivors' base as an exchange for materials. Wang Qiushui sat down on another chair. I'm so tired, but this time the harvest is quite rich. Thanks to you for being so generous before. I almost thought there wasn't much left. He shook his head. There are so many of them, so there must be a lot of things. Otherwise the fat man's men would have rebelled long ago. And we still have food. I was thinking of leaving it for those people. Who knows? By the way, do you want one? This bread tastes pretty good, and there is meat floss in it. A trace of desire flashed in Wang Qiushui's eyes, and he swallowed his saliva at the same time. But when he heard the word meat floss, he started to dry heave again. Don't say anything. Take it away. Don't let me see it. He turned around, with his back to Wang Qiushui, and shook his head. You can't bear it psychologically. When I watched TV programs before, when those soldiers were training, there was a cesspool next to them, and they had to grit their teeth to eat their meals. Man is iron and food is steel. You will be hungry if you don't eat a meal. Wang Qiushui patted his chest and relaxed. That depends on what I eat. Anyway, I can't eat anything related to those two words recently, and I can't even stand hearing them. By the way, aren't you going to sleep tonight? He paused. No, it's almost dawn, and there are things to do after dawn. Wang Qiushui snorted. You had the nerve to mock me just now, but now you are still afraid to sleep. What's wrong? Are you worried about having nightmares again? He took a big bite of bread, chewing, and said in an unclear voice, what am I afraid of? I have a clear conscience. I'm just worried that I will oversleep and delay things. Wang Qiushui didn't hesitate anymore and asked, what else is there? Don't we drive the things back when it's dawn? He swallowed the bread. Didn't the team leader say yesterday that someone would come to pick up the materials today? We'll see what the situation is then, and if it doesn't work, we'll kill them all. Wang Qiushui frowned when he heard that. Well, let's just kill him. He doesn't look like a good person. Besides, I hate the word material. He nodded. Are you sleepy? If you are, take a rest first, and I'll wake you up then. Wang Qiushui shook his head. I'm a little sleepy, but I don't want to sleep. It's a pity that you can't go out. I just saw the stars outside. They are so bright and beautiful. It seems that without the lights, the sky is much more beautiful. He took out a transformation needle and handed it over. Although I can't go out, I didn't say I can't open a skylight. After a sound of hitting the wall, the two looked up at the twinkling stars in the sky and snuggled up to each other. It's so beautiful. When it was dawn, he gently pushed Wang Qiushui, who was leaning on his shoulder. Wake up, it's dawn. Wang Qiushui yawned sleepily. Is it dawn so soon? He nodded. Are you hungry? Do you want to have some breakfast? I'll go see if there's anything suitable for you. Wang Qiushui rubbed his eyes and shook his head. Forget it. I don't have much appetite. Let's get ready to work. By the way, we don't know the specific time. Do we have to wait here all the time? He smiled. No, I asked Fatty. Those people drive cars with excellent protective performance, so they usually set out at night. After all, there are fewer zombies at night. Then they arrive here in the morning, stay here for a day, and go back at night. In theory, as long as we don't encounter high-level zombies above level 3, there will be no problem. Wang Qiushui nodded. Then let's wait here. He glanced at the house. No, we have to wait halfway. When those cockroaches came here yesterday, they had destroyed all the traps on the road. Those people are not blind. Once they see something wrong, they will definitely turn around and leave. Then we will be waiting here in vain. Wang Qiushui swung the hammer of the earth. Then let's go. He followed her up. The two of them tacitly did not mention Qiushui. Whether she really left or not, they did not care. After all, they could not force her to stay by their side. If everyone had different opinions, it would be more likely to cause problems in the future. After Wang Qiushui transformed, she took him to the roof of the tallest building nearby. The two of them looked down, glanced around, and waited for the arrival of the car. Not long after, Wang Qiushui pointed to the distance and said, is it that car? He looked in the direction Wang Qiushui pointed and saw a silver-white car driving on the road. The whole car looked like those large trucks. The front of the car could only seat 2 people, and the back was towing a large container. And this car was extremely sturdy, and it was rushing all the way. The zombies that were hit were directly broken into 2 pieces, but the front of the car was intact, without even a dent. He nodded, and then said to Wang Qiushui, that's it, let's go. Wang Qiushui directly hugged him, and swung across the floors, and asked at the same time, what should we do later? He answered directly, please find a place without zombies to drop me off. I will pretend to be a survivor in the middle of the road to stop cars, and see their reactions first. Wang Qiushui then asked, what if they don't stop? He smiled, don't you still have you? If they don't stop, then help them stop and give them a hammer to see if they will stop. Wang Qiushui nodded repeatedly. Okay, then I will be waiting with the hammer by the side. As they were talking, the two had already arrived at the place. After Wang Qiushui cleaned up the zombies nearby, he ran to hide on a nearby roof. He stood by the roadside waiting for the car to appear. Since the clothes he wore yesterday were all bloody, he directly changed into a bloodless clothes from the corpse. In addition, He didn't sleep all night and looked haggard. He did look like an ordinary survivor. Chapter 242 Stopping a car. He did not stay where he was, but walked back a little, then walked slowly, hunched over from the other side. Wang Qiushui watched this scene on the roof and smiled. It's a pity that you don't go to win the Best Actor award. If I hadn't known in advance, I would have almost thought you were a survivor. He lowered his head, with no expression on his face, and secretly said in his mind, that's right, I'm very dedicated. If I do something, I have to do it the best. At this time, the roar of a vehicle sounded in the distance. However, perhaps in order not to attract the attention of the zombies, the roar was not actually very loud, at least much smaller than that of ordinary vehicles. However, in this silent apocalypse, it sounded inevitably obvious. It was not until the vehicle appeared in his field of vision that he slowly raised his head, then slowly stretched out his hand, pretending to stop the car. At the same time, he also turned on the scanner, and the situation nearby was under control. There were two people sitting in the car. One was the driver, who was firmly in control of the steering wheel. The other was lowering his head, looking at an instrument with a serious face. The screen of the instrument was circular, with a green dot in the middle, and red dots of different sizes around it, as well as the green dot, where Wending was, and the most obvious red dot was in the direction of Wang Qiushui. However, the instrument did not indicate a clear distance. The driver glanced at Wending, who was blocking the road, and then asked with a smile, Professor Wu, there seems to be a material on the side of the road. Do you want to take it? Professor Wu looked up, a young man in his 20s wearing a pair of thick glasses. He supported the frame of his glasses and shook his head. No, there are high-level zombies nearby, and I don't know if this material is targeted by high-level zombies, or is a bait specially released. Just hit it directly. Anyway, we don't lack this material. The driver responded, okay. Then he stepped on the accelerator, and turned the steering wheel, and the front of the car actually rushed directly towards him. His eyes became solemn. If the car was driving normally, it would at most pass by him. Judging from the current situation, these people are not only not prepared to save him, but are also prepared to take his life. It seems that in the eyes of these people, the material is really nothing, and if he dies, he dies. Perhaps, the black liquid on the front of the car was not necessarily all zombies. Maybe it contained the blood of survivors. Wang Qiushui asked hurriedly, what should we do now? How about I pull you up first? He shook his head and took a deep breath. It's too late. Just do as you said before and smash their windows. Wang Qiushui hesitated for a moment, but still did it. She stretched out her arms from the roof and swung the hammer of the earth. With a bang, the hammer of the earth hit the car window glass, but it did not break the glass, just a little bit. However, under this great force, the front of the car also tilted a little. The two people in the car were terrified. They thought the car window glass was going to be smashed. The driver asked hurriedly, Professor Wu, what should we do now? Professor Wu said angrily, you are the driver, and you still ask me what to do. This zombie is lying in ambush nearby. Why don't you step on the accelerator and run away? Do you want to die here? The driver said oh, and hurriedly turned the steering wheel, drove the car back to the previous route, and stepped on the accelerator to rush forward. Professor Wu picked up the previous instrument, and took a look, and cursed in a low voice, damn, this instrument can't detect the exact distance, otherwise I could have avoided it just now. However, I didn't expect that the zombie was lying in ambush nearby, and it could use weapons. It seems that these high-level zombies evolve very quickly. The car rushed towards him again under the driver's control. Wang Qiushui saw that the situation was not good, and hurried down from the roof, but it seemed that it was too late to rescue. He stood there expressionless, looking as if he was scared. Don't worry about me, keep smashing the glass. Wang Qiushui was stunned for a moment, and swung the hammer of the earth to smash the car window glass again. At the same time, her aura also rolled over the two people. The driver wanted to turn the steering wheel, but suddenly found that he could not move. Professor Wu was terrified and confused. What kind of ability is this? Although the two people in the car could not move, the driver did not step on the brakes, so the car was still moving forward under the action of inertia. The black front of the car was getting closer and closer to him, and he could even smell the fishy smell on it, but he still stayed in place without dodging. The driver said viciously, "It's all this guy's fault. Even if he dies, he will take the blame for me." He looked at the front of the car and suddenly shouted, "Do it." I saw a humanoid object flashing beside him. Then, the humanoid object turned into a humanoid crab and rushed directly to the car, then jumped up suddenly and smashed the front of the car with its big claws. With a loud bang, the solid front of the car was directly smashed down. Although the speed was affected, it still did not stop. Then, he pressed the two pliers against the front of the car, tensed all his muscles, and burst out with strength to fight against the car. At the same time, Wang Qiushui still did not stop hitting the car window with the hammer of the earth. With a squeak, the car stopped right in front of him. Professor Wu looked at the zombie that was pressing against the car stupidly and muttered, "It's an animal zombie, and it's such a high level one. It's really a rare material." At this time, with a click, cracks began to appear on the car window. Another hammer, the car window glass was completely shattered, and the two people in the car appeared in front of them. Then, Wang Qiushui also came over, looked at the two people in the car, and then looked at the human-shaped crab. "I thought you were gone." Qiushui loosened her claws and turned back into a zombie. "I just went back to accompany Zillion for a while, and then I rushed over." He nodded. "Thank you again this time." Wang Qiushui looked at him. "Did you know it a long time ago, so you didn't need me to save you?" He nodded, then shook his head. "Actually, I only found out when I started the scan." Qiushui responded, "You are lucky. If I had come a little later, you would have been hit to death." He smiled. "If I didn't know you were nearby, I wouldn't have risked standing here." Wang Qiushui looked at the two people in the car. "What should we do with these two? Or just kill them directly?" When the driver and Professor Wu heard this, they were so scared that they turned pale and trembled all over. Chapter 243 Suppression. Although Professor Wu was afraid, he still managed to speak. "Who are you three? Why are you trying to stop us?" He glanced at Wang Qiushui and the other man, and said with a smile, "Aren't there two zombies here for one person? Besides, we didn't intend to stop you. It's just that I wanted to take a ride, but you wanted to kill me." The driver quickly pointed at Professor Wu and said, "It was him. He told me to do this just now. I'm just a small driver. How can I not listen to him? So, if you have any questions, just go to him. It's none of my business." Professor Wu's face was annoyed, but he didn't refute it, as if he admitted it. He looked at Professor Wu and said, "You were so skilled just now. You must have done this a lot." Professor Wu replied coldly, "I detected the presence of high-level zombies nearby. Who knows if you are the bait of high-level zombies to lure us out of the car." Qiushui's face turned cold. "This is not a reason for you to kill people. You can just go around instead of hitting people to death directly." Professor Wu didn't say anything else. He then asked, "Who are you? Where are you from? And where are you going?" The driver opened his mouth, but did not speak, just looked at Professor Wu. Professor Wu thought for a moment and replied, "We are from the Survivor Base in Area S, and now we are going to a survivor organization to trade with them." He looked interested. "What trade? Tell me." Professor Wu looked at him deeply. "We need to study zombies, and the trade is naturally zombies. They are responsible for capturing zombies for us, and we provide them with daily necessities and weapons." Qiushui frowned when she heard this, and was about to say something when he stopped her. He looked at the driver again. "Is what he said true?" The driver looked at Professor Wu, hesitated for a moment, and then nodded again and again. "It's true. It's all true. We came out just to take those zombies back." He smiled. "But there are only two of you. Can you control those zombies? If the zombies run out, won't you be dead?" The driver was stunned for a moment, and Professor Wu said, "Our carriage is made of solid steel plates, and there is absolutely no need to worry about zombies running out. Moreover, those zombies are tied up with iron chains and cannot resist." The driver nodded again and again. "Yes, yes." As if seeing that he didn't believe it, Professor Wu said again, "How about I open the carriage and show you?" He thought about it and nodded. A cunning flashed in Professor Wu's eyes, but it was blocked by his glasses. He then said, "Well, can you untie my restraints first? I can't move now, and can't open the car. The car uses a special lock that requires not only a password, but also a palm print." He smiled. Then you tell us the password, and then chop off your hand, right? The driver was shocked by his words, and Professor Wu was also stunned. He waved his hand. Just a joke. Then he winked at Wang Qiushui. Wang Qiushui nodded and replied, okay. Professor Wu tried to move his body, and found that he could actually move. Then he opened the door and got out. The driver also wanted to get out of the car, but found that he still couldn't move, so he hurriedly asked, what about me? He smiled. Just stay in the car. If you can move, what if you drive the car away? Then, Professor Wu took the three of them to the back of the car. The lock on the car was indeed a combination lock, and there were fingerprints next to it, which was similar to those safes. He couldn't help but sigh. It seems that these materials are very important to you. You actually need such a precious lock. Professor Wu was entering the password with his back to them. He nodded when he heard it. The main concern is that the zombies will go berserk. After all, there will always be accidents. Therefore, we can only use these locks with a higher security level to prevent the zombies from running out easily. He pretended to be thoughtful. That's right. Safety first. At this time, Professor Wu said, okay. Then he walked to the side. The door of the carriage slowly opened at this time, but it was pitch black inside, and it was not very clear. As the door was opened, light shone in, and the scene inside slowly appeared in front of them. He looked at the rows of black muzzles, and then looked at Professor Wu. This joke is a bit too big. Professor Wu took out a remote control from his pocket. Why do you think I should bring you here in person, when I can control it remotely? If I don't do this, how can you be fooled? At the same time, more than a dozen people walked down from the carriage, each wearing combat uniforms, and armed with guns. And these people were scattered in various directions, pointing their guns at the three of them. Raise your hands. He glanced at Professor Wu and slowly raised his hands. Wang Qiushui and the other two also raised their hands. Professor Wu glanced at him, then looked at Wang Qiushui and the other man. I didn't expect to have an unexpected gain today. If you hadn't come to me, I really wouldn't have been able to catch you so easily. High-level zombie materials are rare even in the base, and now I have two at once, which will definitely be a great boost to my research. He sneered. Are you too happy too early? Professor Wu shook his head. Not at all. I know what you want to say. You just want to use the ability just now to prevent us from moving. But just now we were facing you directly, and even if each of you can suppress 2, at most you can only suppress 4. So, there are more than a dozen of us here, scattered in different directions, and there is no need to worry. If you make any unusual movements, we can beat you into a sieve at any time. Although living materials are better, dead ones can be used just the same. He shook his head. You usually study some dead zombies. Even if you occasionally come into contact with high-level zombies, it is probably just some fragments, so you don't know anything about high-level zombies. Professor Wu was stunned for a moment. What do you mean? He quickly reacted. Do it. However, the imagined gunshots did not sound. Professor Wu looked at those people and shouted, are you deaf? Shoot. Those people did not even blink. Their fingers were clearly on the trigger, but they never pulled it. Their eyes were wide open, and their muscles were tense, as if they were fighting against something. He put his hands down. They are not deaf. They are just like you before, unable to move. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Professor Wu. Professor Wu looked incredulous. It's impossible. Your energy strength is at most that of a level 3 zombie. There's no reason for you to have such a strong ability. He laughed. That's why I said you haven't seen a high-level zombie. This is due to the suppression of levels. The high level directly crushes the low level. The greater the gap, the better the effect. Besides, you don't think I don't know there are people in the car, right? If I don't follow you, how can I get them off the car obediently? How can I get rid of them without any effort? Professor Wu was struck by lightning. So everything was planned by you. He snorted coldly. What else? We wild survivors are scheming against each other every day, thinking about how to survive. It's different from you domesticated ones, who have no sense of crisis. Then he gave Wang Qiushui a look. Wang Qiushui understood and swung the hammer of the earth directly at those people. If he hadn't talked to Wang Qiushui in advance, he might have been beaten into a sieve by these people. At worst, they would be captured alive for a search, or even sliced. So, there was no need to keep these people. Qiushui hesitated for a moment, then followed suit. When the ground was full of corpses, he made a gesture to Professor Wu. Please come in. Professor Wu glanced at him and walked forward. The driver had been in the car, and a glimmer of hope ignited in his eyes when he saw Professor Wu. After seeing the three people following behind, his hope was completely shattered, and there was no light in his eyes, as if he had seen his future. Several people stood in front of the car, and he said to the driver, "Come here." The driver tried, and found that he could move, so he subconsciously wanted to start the car and run away. However, after seeing Wang Qiushui swinging the hammer of the earth and Qiushui holding the Dragon Slayer spear, he gave up the idea and walked in front of him, stopping for 3 seconds after every step. He looked at the driver. "Now you can tell me the purpose of your coming here, otherwise, go and accompany those people just now." The driver's body trembled, and he quickly said, "We are really here to pick up materials." He nodded and smiled. "The word material is well used, but I don't know what you mean by material. Is it zombies, or people?" Professor Wu looked at him, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. This kind of thing is done secretly, and usually only those survivors who cooperate with the organization know about it. After all, the survivor base is official in nature, and it still has to keep some face. As long as there is no substantial evidence, the survivor base is usually not suspected. Besides, the survivors who are stranded outside are almost all thinking about how to survive and survive among the zombies. How can they have time to take care of these trivial matters? The driver glanced at Professor Wu and said, "Zombies, we are picking up zombies. That's why there are so many people with guns in the back car. If a zombie escapes, we can just shoot it to death." He applauded and said, "That's great. When shooting zombies in a sealed space, you really don't have to worry about being accidentally injured by rebounding bullets." When the driver heard this, he knelt down and said, "I'm just a driver. I really don't know anything. I'm only responsible for driving the car to the destination. As for loading and other things, it's too dangerous. After all, the targets are zombies, so I'm usually not there." He sighed and said, "I hate dishonest people the most. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. If you tell me everything you know, including the matter of the survivor base, I can consider sparing your life." The driver shuddered, then turned his head slightly to look at the front of the car, then gritted his teeth and insisted, "I really don't know anything." He shook his head and said, "Then you're useless." With a wave of his fingers, the driver's headless body fell to the ground with a plop. Professor Wu's face was covered in blood, which was still slightly warm. His pupils contracted. Those people were far away from him, so the shock of death was far less than that of death being right beside him. He even had no doubt that, if Wendy's hand had moved a little further, his head would have fallen to the ground. He looked at Professor Wu again. "How about it? Do you have anything to say?" Professor Wu seemed to have made up his mind, and looked up at him calmly. "I have nothing to say. But I'm very curious about you." He smiled. "Really?" Professor Wu said to himself, "You should have learned about our arrival from the fat man, so the fat man should have been killed by you? And everything you did before was just teasing us. In fact, you already knew what materials we were going to pick up." He couldn't help but applauded. Smart people are different. They guessed it so quickly. "What else did you guess? Keep talking." Professor Wu went on, "You should have had some adventure, or found some shortcut to upgrade, so you can reach such a high level so quickly. However, I'm quite curious where your transformation needles came from. There are not many transformation needles flowing out of the base, and the early transformation needles have many side effects, but they don't seem to appear in you. Could it be that you have some kind of antibodies in your body, so this happens?" He laughed and said, "So, those people are really miserable. Not only do they work hard for you, but they also become your voluntary experimental subjects." Professor Wu snorted coldly. "They are all volunteers, and they also know these side effects. However, living in a place full of zombies, they may become zombies, or be killed directly by zombies. Naturally, they know what to choose. He nodded. That's right, one is dead, and the other is likely to die. It's worth fighting. Professor Wu looked at him. So, we each get what we need. At this time, Wang Qiushui and Qiu Zilan suddenly ended their transformation at the same time. The two looked at him together, their eyes full of surprise. They clearly had a long time before the transformation ended. And now it ended early, obviously caused by him. He didn't say anything, just looked at Professor Wu in front of him. Professor Wu sneered, then took out a transformation needle and quickly stabbed himself. Finally, I waited until you finished the transformation. Now it's my turn. The next second, Professor Wu's eyes quickly became bloodshot and turned red, and soon he turned into a zombie. He stretched out his hands and moved them. This feeling of being full of power is really good. Oh, I forgot to mention that this is a new generation of transformation needle. The chance of side effects is much lower than before. Chapter 245 Disarmament. He looked at Professor Wu and sighed. So, you have been talking nonsense just now, trying to get information from me while delaying time, right? Professor Wu sneered. You just realized it now. It's too late. He shook his head. Not too late at all. I took a look. You are just a level 1 zombie. So, did you level up after killing 10 ordinary zombies yourself? Or did you just eat a bunch of ordinary zombie corpses to level up? Or, what you ate was not zombies, but... Qiu Zilan's eyes turned cold, and she was about to stab forward with the Dragon Slayer spear, but was stopped in time by Wang Qiushui. Professor Wu stretched his body. Even if it's just a level 1 zombie, it's more than enough to deal with you. He smiled. Really? You underestimate us too much. Professor Wu shook his head. It's not that I underestimate you. This has nothing to do with whether I underestimate you or not. This is a racial difference. Zombies have an unparalleled advantage over humans. He nodded. So that's why you are researching the transformation needle, so that humans can turn into zombies and fight. And to do this, you naturally need a lot of materials, so you set your sights on the survivors. In this age without laws, fists are everything, and you are the official, and have the most powerful power. Naturally, no one dares and has the ability to resist you. Professor Wu said seriously, this is for the benefit of all mankind. They have only made a small sacrifice, and people in the future will remember them. With their help, research on the transformation needle can be faster. Today's zombies are evolving faster and faster, and higher level zombies are becoming more and more common. If humans cannot keep up with their pace of evolution, they will be exterminated by zombies sooner or later. Qiu Zilan snorted. Aren't there many animals for experiments, such as mice? Does it have to be done on humans? Professor Wu shook his head. After all, the physiques of animals and humans are different. What's more, animals can't speak, and they can't give feedback on their feelings after being injected with the transformation needle. But humans are different. If there is anything wrong during use, they can say it, and we can make further improvements based on it. Wang Qiushui said disdainfully. TSK, that sounds good, but why don't you use yourself for experiments? Professor Wu was choked, and quickly said, am I not using myself to test the consequences of the transformation needle now? The two of them wanted to say more, but Professor Wu waved his hand. Don't talk nonsense, and try to delay time. I won't give you that opportunity. I'm asking you one last time. Are you willing to join us and assist us in research for the benefit of all mankind? Wang Qiushui and Qiu Zilan looked at each other, then shook their heads together. No. Professor Wu snorted coldly. If that's the case, then you can't blame me. Although the living ones are more useful, the dead ones can still be studied. There's nothing we can do about it now. It's a pity to waste such good materials. After saying that, Professor Wu's hand went straight to Gugu's waist, and at the same time, his figure retreated, leaving the attack range of the three people. Qiu Zilan had just swung half of her Dragon Slayer spear, but she saw Professor Wu holding a pistol in his hand and pointing it at them, so she had to put the Dragon Slayer spear back. If she wasn't a zombie, her speed would be completely inferior to the opponent's. After all, her physical strength increase was not that great. Professor Wu pointed the gun at the three of them and shook it, making a pa-pa-pa sound from his mouth, as if he had already hit them. The three of them looked at Professor Wu expressionlessly, as if they were looking at a fool. Professor Wu looked at them, then at the gun in his hand. This is the benefit of technological development. No matter how good your kung fu is, you are afraid of kitchen knives. Even if you become zombies, you can't stop a bullet, not to mention that you are human now. So, I have changed my mind now. You just go to the back car obediently. Although a large number of ordinary materials were lost this time, it is definitely a big profit to get the three of you. I didn't expect that I could get such a harvest for my first time out. My research will definitely go further in the future. He sneered. Have you seen Zhang Xian's he? Professor Wu was stunned for a moment. What the hell? He continued. There is a line in it. 7 steps away, the gun is fast. Within 7 steps, the fist is fast. Do you think we have 7 steps now? Qiushui looked at him after hearing this. Things in the movie can't be true. She practiced Baji, so she naturally knew that this was impossible. What's more, one is a zombie and the other is an ordinary person. The gap is even greater. Wang Qiushui swung the hammer of the earth, bit his lip, and was ready to rush out at any time. She was wearing the skirt of darkness, so she would not be seriously injured if she blocked the bullet. Professor Wu said disdainfully, things in the movies are all fake, and only fools like you would believe them. If you dare to move, I will kill you first. Although he said so, he still took steps to retreat, trying to keep a distance. At this time, he rushed directly towards Professor Wu, and at the same time crouched down. Bang, the gun went off. Then, a cold light flashed. Wang Qiushui rushed to his side, felt around his body, and after finding that he was not injured, he patted him and said, "You scared me to death." He smiled and said, "Don't forget, my physical strength is more than twice yours, and correspondingly, my reaction speed is naturally much faster than ordinary people. It is not difficult for me to dodge bullets. What's more, if I'm not sure, I will not do it." On the other side, Professor Wu saw that the first shot missed and wanted to shoot again, but found that the gun in his hand broke into 2 pieces and fell to the ground, and his fingers also fell with the gun body. He looked at his severed finger, the wound on which was oozing black liquid, and then he cried out in pain. However, Professor Wu did not give up, and reached for the gun from his waist with his other hand. At the same time, strands of black silk began to grow from his severed hand, extending toward the severed finger on the ground. At this time, Qiushui's Dragon Slayer spear was directly against Professor Wu's neck. Don't move, otherwise, I don't mind making a hole in your neck. Even if you are a zombie, you won't survive then. Professor Wu stopped immediately after hearing this, and the coldness on his neck left him no doubt about what Qiushui said. He walked up and pulled out another pistol from Professor Wu's waist. Double guns, why didn't you use them just now? If you did, I would be a little more cautious. Professor Wu glanced at him. I just wanted to keep a hand. If she hadn't moved so fast, you would be dead now. Chapter 246 base. He shook his head. That's not how you use a backup plan. If I were you, I would have taken out both guns and killed all 3 of us. Then this wouldn't be the case now. Professor Wu was stunned. You can obviously kill me. Why did you keep me until now? Aren't you afraid that I have a backup plan? He sneered. You don't think that what you just saw is all of me, do you? I'm not afraid to tell you that I actually have a backup plan, and there are many of them, which you can't even imagine. Professor Wu's pupils contracted instantly, and he shook his head repeatedly. I don't believe it. While the two were talking, Professor Wu's fingers were connected together through the black silk threads, and soon began to repair themselves, becoming the same as before. Wang Qiushui said in surprise, this ability is quite similar to the zombie we encountered before. Professor Wu raised his intact fingers and looked at them. Did you see it? This is the power of technology. When we completely master the use of the transformation needle, everything will no longer be a problem. People will not only be able to regenerate severed limbs, but can even cure all diseases. It is not impossible to achieve immortality in the end. So, join us, we will definitely be remembered forever. The 3 looked at each other, and after a while Wang Qiushui said, is this man crazy? He and Qiushui nodded together. Professor Wu looked at the 3 people like crazy. Why don't you believe me? Isn't this the best proof? He shook his head. When your transformation needle has no side effects, then consider what you said later. Besides, when we really get to your base, there will probably be a lot of guns and even cannons pointing at us. Won't we let you do whatever you want? Do you really think we are fools?" Professor Wu's expression was a little gloomy. "So, we have been working hard on research to eliminate the side effects of the transformation needle. However, scientific research cannot be achieved overnight. It requires a lot of time and experiments." Qiushui's pretty face turned cold. "Is this the reason why you are searching for survivors everywhere? You don't care about the life and death of the survivors at all. After all, in your eyes, they are just materials for experiments." Professor Wu insisted. "They are just making necessary sacrifices for scientific research. Besides, they are stranded outside. Not only are their lives in danger, but they can't even get enough food. When they get to the base, they are not only safe, but they can also have enough food. We just need them to assist in research. This is a win-win situation." Wang Qiushui directly retorted. "Then why don't you sacrifice yourself for scientific research?" Professor Wu blushed and explained. "I'm a scientific research talent, and I master important technologies. Naturally, I cannot put myself in danger. However, if that day really comes, I will not hesitate to dedicate myself to science." He looked at Professor Wu. "We have already learned most about the survivors. Now it's time to talk about your base. What is the composition of your base? How many people are there? How many weapons are there? Etc. Do you mind telling us?" Professor Wu shook his head. "I have no comment, but I can advise you that you can't beat the base. Even if you are a level 3 zombie now, you can't block a shot in front of the base." He nodded. "You are right. Let alone a cannon, even a pistol, we can't stop it." A glimmer of hope rose in Professor Wu's eyes. "So, you shouldn't go against the base. I'm from the base. As long as you let me go, I promise not to pursue you." He shook his head. "I haven't finished what I said just now. Precisely because we can't stop them, we won't go over so quickly. When we are strong enough, we will go over to settle accounts with your base." Professor Wu's hope was shattered in an instant. The ups and downs came too quickly. He said seriously, "I hope you think it over carefully. There are only 3 of you, while our base has countless people and weapons, and even the survivor organization outside is our people. If you are enemies of the base, it is tantamount to hitting a rock with an egg, and you will definitely not end well." He looked at Qiushui. "What do you think?" Qiushui snorted coldly, and a murderous aura emanated from her body. "Is there any difference between people killing people and zombies killing people? In this case, just kill them all together. If the survivor base is really full of people like that, then I don't mind cleaning up the entire base." He looked at Professor Wu. "What she said is what I thought. But before that, we have to deal with you first. After all, we are not as wealthy as your base, and we don't have extra food to feed some idle people." Professor Wu said fiercely, "You can't kill me, I'm from the base. Also, there are cameras in the car, and your appearance has been filmed and sent back. If you kill me, you will definitely be hunted down by the base. If you stop in time, I can still spare your life." He grabbed Professor Wu's collar and carried him to the front of the car, pointing upwards. "The camera you mentioned should be there." So the driver just glanced in that direction. However, his family should be in the base. So, he knows that he can betray you, but he can't betray the base. Otherwise his family will be implicated. I have to say that your base is really good at this. A trace of fear flashed in Professor Wu's eyes. "Even if you knew, it's too late. From the moment you appeared in front of this car, your appearance has been transmitted back through the camera." He said indifferently, "So what? Let them come and kill me. I promise to make sure they never come back." Professor Wu seemed to have accepted his fate at this time. Looking at him, "I have one last question. What weapon did you use just now? Why could you cut off my finger from such a distance?" He glanced at the camera and smiled. "Before you died, you still wanted to find out my information. You are quite loyal to the base. But I also have to say to you, I have no comment." Professor Wu slowly closed his eyes. "I will wait for you in hell. The base will definitely avenge me. Everything is for all mankind." He picked up Professor Wu, facing the direction of the camera, and was about to take action. At this time, the Dragon Slayer spear directly stabbed into Professor Wu's mouth and came out from the back of his head. Then the gun body was pulled back while rotating, and the whole head exploded instantly. Qiuslan threw away the red and white mixed thing on the gun head. Shut up. He was stunned for a moment, looking at Qiuslan. Can you say something before you take action? You splashed me all over. Qiuslan asked back, won't you be splashed all over if you kill him? What's the difference? He was speechless. Chapter 247 figured it out. Wang Qiushui looked at the front of the car for a while, and after confirming the location of the camera, he directly swung the hammer of the earth and smashed the camera. Then, she turned around and asked, now that our appearances are exposed, what should we do next? Unfortunately, the camouflage of the dark skirt can only work on the person wearing it, and there is no way to change your appearance. He threw away the corpse in his hand. What I'm more worried about is whether they will directly launch missiles or something like that and raze this place to the ground. Wang Qiushui and the other person looked at him with horror. They couldn't stop the bullets, let alone missiles. He waved his hand. It's just a joke. They shouldn't use such weapons of mass destruction. We haven't heard similar explosions for so long in the end of the world, so it's not certain whether they can use it. Maybe they can't use it because of energy problems. Wang Qiushui patted his chest. You scared me to death. Qiuslan also breathed a sigh of relief. He quietly asked, System, if there are missiles or something like that coming, is there anything that can stop them? System, after deducting all your existing experience, I can block one fatal injury for you. He looked at his experience, which was a total of 10,245. He couldn't help but feel distressed. It's a bit expensive. I worked hard to get this back. The system replied coldly, this is because of special circumstances. Otherwise, you have to pay more experience to achieve such an effect. He thought about it, and it made sense. After all, missiles are not a joke. Then, the system added, there is no way. After all, it's not easy to train this account to this point. It's a pity to waste it. I can only suffer a little loss myself. He suddenly felt a little heartbroken. Sure enough, the system would not be so good to him. Everything was just for profit. At this time, Wang Qiushui asked, should we go back? If we stay here any longer, we will really become a target. He nodded. This car is pretty good. Let's drive it back. Besides, the compartment is so big, we can carry a lot of things at a time. Then, they searched those people and put all the things they could take away into the car. There were not many things in the compartment. It seemed that in the eyes of these people, the value of the materials was not high. He did find a few transformation needles, but he was not interested in such inferior things at all. When he got in the car, Wang Qiushui patted his shoulder. Zilan and I will sit in the back, and you will have to be the driver this time. He nodded. Then you have to sit well, and I will call you when we get back. The car started slowly. Although the front part of the car was smashed by Qiuslan, the engine inside was not damaged, so it did not affect its use. After the compartment was closed, the lights inside automatically lit up, and the white light shone on the two people sitting opposite each other. Wang Qiushui looked at Qiuslan and finally spoke. I thought you had left. Qiuslan paused. Before you told me, I did think about leaving. Because you have killed too many people, I don't want to be like you, with my hands covered in blood. Wang Qiushui nodded without interrupting. Qiuslan continued, but you are right. Everything in this world has collapsed, so things like that can happen. Even the survivor base representing the official authorities not only did not stop this behavior, but even participated in it. So, I was thinking, even if we can't do much, at least we can solve the injustice we see. Wang Qiushui smiled. I'm not as great as you think. I only know that the direction he points to is the direction I swing the hammer. Qiuslan was stunned for a moment and asked, then aren't you afraid that he will kill innocent people? Just like those people with guns just now. Wang Qiushui shook his head. They are just one of them. How can they be innocent? Without them helping the evil, the base would not be so rampant. If we were not strong enough, he would have been hit by a car and killed just now, and the two of us were caught and taken back for various experiments. So, I believe in his judgment, and his judgment has never been wrong. What's more, he doesn't actually want to kill people. Qiuslan didn't seem to believe it. He killed a lot yesterday, and he was obsessed with killing. Wang Qiushui smiled. Then do you think those people should be killed? Qiushui sighed. I don't know either. What he said makes sense. In times of chaos, severe punishments should be used, so they deserve to be killed. However, what he said was just his guess, and those people did not do such a thing. If it were in peacetime, at most they would have committed the crime of insulting a corpse. Wang Qiushui looked at the light above his head. In fact, they are the same as Fatty and those people in the base. Qiushui was stunned for a moment. The same? Wang Qiushui explained. Yes, they can only bully those who are weaker than themselves, and they don't treat people as human beings. In the eyes of Fatty, the living and the dead are just a piece of meat, and the people in the base treat people as materials, and they treat the dead as meat. So, there is no difference between them. Qiushui listened thoughtfully. Wang Qiushui went on. He told me before that cannibalism would occur in times of famine. He even experienced the feeling of hunger himself, and it was really uncomfortable. Although he didn't say it explicitly at the time, I think what he meant was that when people are hungry to a certain extent, cannibalism is not surprising. And that group of people have obviously lost the ability to survive independently. It's not that they can't act, but they no longer have the courage to fight zombies or humans. So when the food is eaten up, they either fight outside or inside. Anyway, they start with the weak, until there is nothing to eat. Qiushui shuddered at the thought of that scene. Wang Qiushui suddenly smiled. Actually, he didn't want to kill anyone. Especially last night, he didn't dare to sleep the whole night, because he was afraid of having nightmares. So, if he had a choice, he didn't want to kill those people. Qiushui said at this time, if we hadn't taken them to the kitchen, or poured the meat directly into the sewer, what happened later wouldn't have happened. Wang Qiushui shook his head. The choice is in their hands. Even if we pour out the meat, and destroy the remaining bodies, one day, they will do the same thing. Maybe they have done it before, or they have been locked up for so long, that they have been influenced by the fat man, and think this is a normal thing. Qiushui fell silent. Chapter 248 Dealing with Cockroaches. Soon, they returned to the original building, but at this time there were only a few zombies lured by the blood and black liquid. Those zombies wanted to attack him, but he killed them directly. Afterwards, Wang Qiushui and the others got out of the car and started to move things into the carriage. After they finished moving, they each found another car and filled it up. As for the cockroaches, they were all tied up with chains or ropes and tied to the car. In this way, when the car started, it could drag the cockroaches away. As for whether they would die on the road, it didn't matter. Then, he squeezed the juice from all the zombies' bodies. Qiushui looked at him. Actually, you didn't plan to leave from the beginning, right? That's why you left these things behind. He picked up a cockroach and stuffed it into the juicer. Yes, these bodies are of no use to them. Besides, this place has been almost destroyed by us, and it is not suitable for them to live in, so they will not stay. My original plan was to deal with the bodies after cleaning up the people in the base today. You saw what happened next last night. Qiushui nodded and silently helped to move things. Finally, he poured out all the oil in the fuel tanks of those cars, poured it inside and outside the house, and then lit a lighter and threw it out. With a bang, the fire broke out instantly. He was startled and quickly hid behind. Wang Qiushui laughed at the back. How stupid. He touched his hair and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, my handsome hair was not burnt, otherwise I would have become bald. But I saw that in the movies. It was like this. Why can't it be done for me? Qiushui shook her head and walked past him. I think that Professor Wu is right. Watch fewer movies. He sighed and got into the car silently, while Wang Qiushui and Qiushui drove a car each to escort them in front and behind. After picking up Qiushui and loading the equipment from yesterday, they went back directly. Along the way, because of the tied cockroaches, a large group of zombies followed behind. However, only some level 2 zombies could get some food. After all, they drove very fast. When they returned to the basketball court where they surrounded and killed the level 3 zombies that day, they stopped. The large group of zombies following behind also followed, but the zombies' eyes also shifted from cockroaches to them. It seems that humans are still the priority target of zombies. He opened the scan and took a look. What a pity, there are no level 3 zombies following, otherwise I can get some experience points. Wang Qiushui looked at him unhappily. If there were level 3 zombies, we wouldn't be so safe along the way. He nodded and took out the juicer. Then I'll leave these to you. Wang Qiushui and Qiushui rushed over after hearing this. Qiushui was locked in the car and clenched her fist to cheer for her sister. In the open space, the big hole that previously contained the juicer was still there. It seems that Wang Qiushui and the others took out the juicer directly and then solidified the ground. But this way, it is much more convenient. At least Qiushui doesn't have to transform again to put the juicer in. He threw the juicer into the hole and then controlled the juicer to grow bigger. Afterwards, he simply ignored the crazy zombies and started dragging the cockroaches into the juicer. Occasionally, some blind zombies wanted to attack him, but they were stopped by Wang Qiushui and the others. There was nothing he could do. With the equipment, he could just rush forward without worrying about getting hurt. By the time he had finished moving the cockroaches, Wang Qiushui and the others had almost dealt with the zombies. He thought for a while and asked, "System, is there any oxygen in this juicer? Will they suffocate to death?" "System, this is a juicer, not a box for you to keep pets. Even if there is oxygen in it, it is sealed. Otherwise, wouldn't the juice inside be thrown out when squeezing?" Although he was very unhappy to be despised by the system, he decided to endure it. "System, then add a ventilation function. By the way, add a camera, otherwise I won't know if they grow legs. It would be even better if there is a reminder function." The system silently replied, "The above functions, 100 experience points each." His face darkened instantly. "No, system, I find that you are getting darker and darker. I can buy a powerful pill with 100 experience points. System, you are a millionaire now. What's 100 experience points? It's not even a fraction of yours. You can just kill a few level 2 zombies and you'll be back. It's such a simple thing." He thought about it. "That's right, then deduct it." System, ding. 300 experience points deducted. The juicer has new ventilation, monitoring and reminder functions. So he directly covered the juicer, and the cockroaches inside were also locked inside. When they grow legs, that's when they will be released from prison. Wang Qiushui came over. "Have you moved them?" He nodded. "Have you moved them?" Wang Qiushui pointed to the corpses on the ground. "What should we do with them? Leaving them here will only attract zombies, and they will be even more smelly after rotting in a few days." He was stunned, having completely forgotten this. After squeezing the juice from the corpses, the 3 of them moved the cockroaches in again. "If I had known earlier, I would not have moved them in a hurry, and my work would have been in vain." Then, the 3 of them drove back. After returning to the building, Qiushui got out of the car and pitifully stopped Qiushui's clothes. "Sister, I'm so hungry." Qiushui slapped her forehead. "I forgot to prepare breakfast for you. I'll go see if there's anything to eat." They were busy all morning and really didn't even have time to eat breakfast. The main reason was that the 2 of them had no appetite after what happened last night, and Qiushui was not with them, so they forgot about it for a while. He pointed directly at the carriage and said, "There are meat floss bread inside, which tastes pretty good. I ate one last night." Qiushui looked at Qiushui expectantly and swallowed her saliva. However, Qiushui and Wang Qiushui both ran to the side and retched at the same time. At this time, Qiushui asked him, "What did you do to the sisters last night? How come they are all pregnant?" This sentence seemed familiar. He was speechless and looked at Qiushui silently. "Stay away from Sister Qiushui in the future. She is not smart. If you stay with her for a long time, it will affect your IQ." Qiushui blinked and did not respond. Chapter 249 Discovering Little Cannon Brother. Then, they moved all the things out of the car. After that, they drove the car back to the previous basketball court. After all, they didn't know whether the car was equipped with a positioning system or a bug, so it was better to be safe. Afterwards, Qiushui came to Wang Qiushui's room. "What should we do next? After all, now that they have offended the base, it is not suitable to stay here for a long time, and there are no zombies here. If they want to continue to upgrade, they must go somewhere else." He and Wang Qiushui sat on the chair and looked at Qiushui. Before that, I have a news to tell you, but you have to stay calm and not get excited. Qiushui was a little confused, but still nodded. Go ahead. He said word by word. From the fat man, we got the news about Brother Cannon and the masked man. Qiushui was stunned for a moment, and then a murderous aura rose from her body. She clenched her fists and asked in a trembling voice, where? He replied, to the northwest of the fat man's house. That's the base camp of Brother Xiaopao and his men. Qiushui turned and was about to go out. Then I'll go over and settle the score with them now. Wang Qiushui grabbed Qiushui. You promised us to stay calm just now. Listen to what he has to say first. Qiushui turned around and looked at him. Then speak quickly. I'm in a hurry. He glanced at Wang Qiushui. Wang Qiushui understood and pulled Qiushui to sit down. You sit down first. Even if you are in a hurry, it won't matter if you wait a little longer. After Qiushui sat down, he said, although we know the base camp of Brother Xiaopao, we don't know their specific situation. You also know what the situation is on Fatty's side. There are traps everywhere on the road. If you are not careful, you will be blown to pieces. According to Fatty, it is almost the same on Brother Xiaopao's side. There are even masked people, and there are even more traps. Qiushui disagreed. Then why don't we lure the zombies over there, or use other things to detonate the traps? He nodded. That's a way, but it's too late today. Let's go there tomorrow. We haven't rested from yesterday to today, so it's just right to take a break and replenish our energy. Qiushui couldn't sit still immediately. You can rest if you want. I'm going now. He sighed. In fact, even if you go now, you may not be able to find them. Qiushui stopped. What do you mean? He explained. Fatty and Little Cannon are competitors, and both have cooperation with the base, so the survivors are a kind of resource for them. However, since the strength of both sides is similar, and in this apocalypse, the consequences of being injured are very serious, so they did not have a large-scale gunfight. But, we made too much noise last night, especially when the cockroaches came over and set off all the traps. So, Little Cannon and the others would not be unaware of it. Qiushui asked, even if they knew, so what? He continued, with such a large-scale explosion, it's obvious that something happened to Fatty. Either he was wiped out by someone, or he was killed by high-level zombies. And there are also many survivors gathered at Little Cannon's place. No matter what the possibility is, they will run away quickly, unless they think the enemy poses no threat to them. That instead means that they have more powerful means, and there may be high-level zombies of level 4 or above. In that case, we will be in vain if we rush over. Qiushui shook her head. No matter what the reason is, I have to go and take a look. Since you knew it last night, why didn't you tell me directly then? If we had gone there then, Brother Xiaopao and the others would definitely not have been able to escape. He replied, so many things happened last night, and we have to intercept people from the base this morning. How can we have the time to go and cause trouble for Brother Xiaopao and the others? Besides, don't forget, we were able to successfully take down Fatty's hometown because we knew the location of the trap in advance, and then you sneaked in and solved it from the inside. It was pitch black last night, and we didn't know their situation. I'm afraid they wouldn't even know how they died. Qiushui continued to ask, then can't we go now? By tomorrow, they might have already run away. Wang Qiushui pulled Qiushui. Even if we can bear it, you have to consider Zillion. She didn't get a good rest last night. If we go there now, we don't know when we can come back. Besides, it's noon now, and it will be almost evening. If we go there, isn't it the same? Moreover, he carries the curse of cockroaches, and he might attract cockroaches at night, and then we will be attacked from both sides. He continued, in fact, even if we go now, they are likely to run away. After all, the masked man is very cautious. So, we don't lack such a little time. Besides, even if they run away, where can they go? This place is so small, we will meet them one day. Even if they run to the base, they can't escape from our palms. Qiushui thought of her sister, and suddenly calmed down, turned and walked out. Then it's settled. We will go out tomorrow morning, and settle accounts with them. Wang Qiushui breathed a sigh of relief. Well, it's decided. When Qiushui walked to the door, she stopped again and asked without looking back, if I left last night, would you still make trouble for Brother Zhao Peo? Wang Qiushui's heart was lifted up again, and he quickly looked at him, fearing that he would say some incorrect answers. He smiled, of course. After all, he and the masked man wanted your lives at the beginning, and this alone is unforgivable. Moreover, they both have the blood of many other people on their hands, so it is better for them to go to hell early. Qiushui said and left directly. Wang Qiushui sat back in the chair and looked at him. You answered well this time. When it was time to go to bed at night, Wang Qiushui suddenly asked, do you want to come to my place? He was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, really? Wang Qiushui said quickly, I'm just worried that you will have nightmares again at night. Let me make it clear first, you are not allowed to mess around later. He directly lifted the quilt and got in. Don't worry, I'm a gentleman. After a while, a pair of red eyes were looming in the dark room. Wang Qiushui panted, you still say you are a gentleman? He pulled Wang Qiushui over. Cancel the transformation. It's been too long since I tried this transformation. I'm just looking for some memories from the past. After a while, Wang Qiushui exclaimed again, your hand. Ugh. He reminded in a low voice, don't be so loud. Zilan and the others are still in the next room. Chapter 250 Double Trap. The next morning, they rushed to Brother Zhao Peo's territory as promised. Since they drove directly there, after all, the distance was too far. Therefore, the sound of the car attracted many zombies. When he was almost there, he stopped directly. The scanner shows that there are no living people nearby, only some zombies. This is good news. At least there are no higher level zombies among them. After all, the masked man and Brother Zhao Peo were mixed together, and they were able to raise a level 3 big fish. Therefore, even if they took out a level 4 big fish now, he would not find it strange. As for the existence of the scanner that can shield him, he has not discovered it yet. Even Qiushui's invisibility can't escape the scanner. Besides, his scanner is different from Professor Wu's broken thing. It definitely has no blind spots. Qiushui had a blank expression on his face and said nothing. Wang Qiushui said quickly, since we are here, we can't go back empty-handed. We should at least go in and take a look. Since they are in such a hurry to escape, they may leave a lot of good things behind. He nodded, drove a little further, and then got out of the car. For safety's sake, it's better to walk from here. Because the road ahead looked like it had been repaired by someone, just like the road on the fat man's side. However, he didn't stop there, but stopped in front. After all, the opponent was the masked man, so it was never too careful. After the three got out of the car, the zombies following behind rushed over directly. However, they were naturally no match for the three, so they turned into corpses soon. Wang Qiushui shook the hammer of the earth and asked, what should we do next? After all, they didn't have the ability to control zombies, and it was not realistic to command zombies to step on the mines. If they wanted to lure them, it would be difficult to do. He picked up a corpse and said, have you never heard of the idiom throwing a stone to ask for directions? Wang Qiushui blinked his big eyes. You are throwing a corpse to ask for directions, right? He threw the corpse out. It's the same. The corpse flew to the ground in the distance, but when it was about to land, it seemed to be tripped by something, so it stayed for a second before landing. At the moment the corpse landed, a bunch of bamboo arrows suddenly shot out from both sides, piercing the corpse directly into a hedgehog. Wang Qiushui was shocked. Such a dense attack, if it were an ordinary person, he would definitely die. He shook his head, not only bamboo arrows. Look at the corpse. Wang Qiushui looked over. What is this? The bamboo arrows on the corpse actually began to slide down, as if they could not be fixed on the corpse. The wound began to gradually grow larger, and finally the whole corpse lay on the ground like a melted snowman, and only the original appearance could be vaguely seen. He went on, the bamboo arrows are poisonous, so even if you can dodge most of the attacks, and are not stabbed to death, you will be poisoned to death by the corrosive venom. Qiushui frowned. Since they still have time to set traps, doesn't it mean they are not in a hurry to leave? He shook his head. Mechanisms and traps can be set up at any time, and they just need to be activated at the critical moment. However, since they left the mechanisms, it means they want to kill us. So, they may come back to check, or there are really a lot of things in there that they don't have time to take away, so they set such traps to prevent us, or other survivors from going in to get them. Qiushui asked directly, then can't we just sit and wait? He thought for a while. There is no point in sitting and waiting. Since they are so cautious, I guess even if someone comes back to investigate, they are just some minions. Moreover, since they can set up mechanisms here, they can do the same in other places. So, compared to knocking on the door, I still hope they come to us. Wang Qiushui was excited, since there are still good things inside. Don't think too much, just move the things away first. As for those people, whether we look for them, or they look for us, the result will be the same, so there is no need to think too much. He pulled Wang Qiushui, who was about to go forward. Don't worry, the trap is not over yet. Wang Qiushui was poured cold water, pointing at the melting corpse and said, didn't it trigger just now? Even if you can't get in, at least it's safe there. He shook his head. That's just the trap on both sides. There are no traps on the ground yet. Wang Qiushui was a little unconvinced. Are there so many traps here? He picked up a corpse and threw it over. As a result, there was no movement on the ground. Wang Qiushui looked at him and didn't say anything. He picked up another corpse and threw it over. There was still no movement on the ground. Wang Qiushui pointed to the ground and said, look, there is nothing. Even Qiushui looked at him with a suspicious look. He sighed, didn't say anything, and threw another corpse over. Wang Qiushui was about to continue talking when suddenly there was a loud bang and the corpse started to burn. Fortunately, they were all wearing masks, otherwise they would have been suffocated by the smell. Wang Qiushui was stunned for a moment and looked at him. What's going on? He explained. These zombies have been hungry for too long and have become much lighter. The ground trap is designed based on the weight of living people, so it takes 2 or 3 zombie corpses to trigger it. Qiushui frowned. In other words, if a zombie runs in, it will be shot to death by the poison arrow, but it will not trigger the ground trap. The living people think that the trap has been triggered at this time, but they will be blown to pieces as soon as they enter. He nodded. That's right. Wang Qiushui snorted coldly. These people are really cunning. They actually came up with such a vicious trap. Next, the 3 of them kept throwing corpses in until the trap was triggered, before continuing to move forward. At the same time, the explosion attracted new zombies, so there was no need to worry about not having enough corpses. After pushing forward all the way, they finally came to a house. The house was in a mess, with all kinds of clothes and other sundries scattered everywhere. It can be seen that those people were in a hurry when they fled, so they didn't have time to pack up these things. Qiushui looked disappointed. It seems that they really left suddenly. Wang Qiushui was also disappointed. It doesn't look like there is anything good, and I don't know if there are any traps in it. She was really scared along the way and didn't want to get stuck in it. He stepped in. At least there are no traps in this hall. Otherwise those people would have died long ago if they had made this place like this. Wang Qiushui and the others hurried to catch up. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.